Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 80s cartoon stream. And with me tonight, as always, is Mike.
It's Mike.
Yep, it is definitely Mike. Also,
you asked for me.
Yes, I guess we did. Also, rejoining us from the last stream we did is Snarboo.
Hello, hello. It is I.
Yep. And also joining us tonight would be Jay.
Hello.
And last but certainly not least, Prime Up, aka Scroll Boss.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah. So, 80s cartoons. I know we're all fans. You know, some of us grew up in that era while others experienced it afterwards. But we all have a story to tell about them.
We do? I'm just...
You do, and you know it, Mike.
I sure hope so, Davey.
That wasn't an 80s cartoon. Now, knock it off.
Okay. Yeah, when did Gumby start anyway? The 60s or something?
Gumby.
Yeah, 60s.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah.
If you ever get a chance, watch some of the riff tracks, Gumbies. Oh, man. Those are great.
Some of those were just a bonus on one of their Kickstarters because I got the notification email of it a while ago.
I ended up buying a couple from their website. So, they just left that little short, burning on the side of the road, didn't they? And you may notice that our backgrounds have got a bit of a facelift. This is not a permanent thing. But I asked Betty for some help, and this is what she came up with. So, I think it works.
Setup.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
And
she always comes through on that.
What'd you say, Brian?
Well, I said she always comes through on that.
Oh, yeah. It's like if I do a background, you can tell. When she does one, it's great. When I do one, it's barely passable.
Yeah, pretty much.
Thanks for agreeing, Mike.
Those are some very 80s specific TVs right there.
Oh, yeah. She specifically went and looked for those. She even gave us a chat box background.
I see that.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at that over on the side there. That's the classic snow. I kind of missed that.
Yeah, me too, a little bit. But
I mean, at least sometimes it was tough getting those channels in, and at least if you couldn't get it all the way in, at least you got it in a little bit. Now, if it doesn't come in, you're just not seeing anything.
Yeah, it's like no signal.
Signal, you could say. Wonk, wonk.
Wonk, wonk, indeed.
Oh, shut up.
Mike, just for that one.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
The ducks are already quacking tonight.
Oh, yeah.
And we haven't really started yet.
I'm sure they'll be quacking aplenty because I'm definitely the babby of this group. I mean, I actually literally am the youngest in age, and should we wait to say any more until we get more of a crowd going? I don't know.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the state of TV at the time. I remember tuning into some of those UHF stations to catch some of these cartoons, and they were just like, lines of snow covering the screen. Unless you just happened to get the antennas, just the right position, like, it would be specifically at 3:53 p.m. during the lunar equinox or whatever. And all of a sudden you had a crystal clear picture, which lasted for about 5 seconds, and you started seeing the snow again.
Nice.
See, we never had cable, so.
And it varied from location to location, because when we were on one side of town, it was really tough to get anything in. But when we moved to another place, I was pulling in channels I couldn't get anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. In fact, for the longest time, my parents told us we weren't to change a channel from PBS. Well, one Thanksgiving morning, I was up before everyone else, and I was bored. So I was like, well, maybe I can mess around with this. So I started flipping through. It's like snow, 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 snow. Whoa, what's this? The Mouse on the Mayflower? There's another TV station? And I'm glad I did that when I did, because couldn't have been more than a year or so later they started airing some of the cartoons that we're going to be talking about tonight. So I was young back then. How about you, Prime? Ever had a similar experience?
I'm a little bit older, so at this point we were, it was me and my mother, and we were with staying with my grandmother at the time. So we had access to cable, so I was able to see channels that I wasn't able to see anywhere else, and I was able to see them clearly for that point.
How nice.
So I think it didn't really come into play till we moved across town, and it was really tough getting some of these channels in. And that's one of the things we have to remember about this was, if you didn't, like you said, if you didn't have cable, you couldn't really even see everything. There are cartoons that I still haven't seen just because they're out of range and I haven't gotten to them yet.
Heck, there's still some shows I haven't seen because they were only on cable.
Yeah, and it's, it's kind of like that old memory of, if you even had HBO, there are movies I still haven't seen because they were on Showtime instead of the HBO/Cinemax system, because that's what our cable system had.
Good old Skinemax.
You would remember it as that, wouldn't you, Rob?
Everyone called it that.
I remember it as I remember it as the Cynthia Rothrock distribution system, because you used to catch all the really cool off-brand martial arts movies through that, and even Hong Kong stuff like The Killer, Hard Boiled.
Shit.
They showed Zerum 1 and 2 on there. I mean, they were showing some. They were bringing some stuff in. It wasn't just the saucy stuff.
Motherfucker, I missed out. The HBO channels I remember just kept running The Matrix Reloaded a lot.
Yeah, this was like
you are young.
Yeah, it's like it's off topic, but it's like 90s Cinemax was basically action martial arts movie central.
Man, I was born in the wrong fucking. Oh well. Oh well, that was now. This is then. I guess I got caught up on most of them eventually.
Yeah,
it's like so much of this stuff is weirdly so time specific on what you were able to see. So this 80s thing kind of fits into that.
I remember in particular, because I watched a lot of the Jim Henson stuff at the time, that when they announced Fraggle Rock, I'm thinking, okay, cool. I wonder when this is coming on. Cable only? What?
Darn.
Yeah, so I missed Fraggle Rock almost completely.
Oh, wow. That's a shame.
And that's a very 80s thing. There's so much, like I said, there's so much stuff we didn't get to see at the time because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm glad my parents actually bought a VCR on the early side. Yeah, we actually had one where the tray lifted out of the top.
Yes, my parents had one of those too. It would just pop up and you'd put the tape in, and well, somehow my 3-year-old self managed to damage it in such a way my dad couldn't repair it with proper tools. All I used was a knitting needle, apparently.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It's an achievement of some sort.
So
that's me in a nutshell.
I remember we had a remote that was connected by a cable to the VCR.
Oh, wow. That old.
Yes.
The hell?
And the first things we rented were, stuff we'd never heard of. Stuff like Dot and the Kangaroo. Speaking of your...
I remember that. Wow. Oh, gosh.
70s,
I haven't heard that name.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that name in a long time.
I just remember the Bunyip. Because that thing was cool. Jay, you ain't said much yet. How about you? You got any memories of this particular era?
From the 80s especially, but like talking about Serum, I watched that in the 90s as well. But my earliest recollection of anything like this would have been like watching He-Man and things like that when I was like a little kid.
He-Man.
Of course, the shows that we're about to talk about as well, especially like my favorites like Robotech and Transformers. But the
Mm-hmm.
memories I have is coming home from school, rushing to the TV. It's like, oh, I gotta watch G.I. Joe or whatever's on there, and Transformers. I would miss like 15 minutes of, I think it was G.I. Joe, but I didn't miss Transformers, which if it was the other way around, it would have been a little bit more mad. But I think it's the Transformers part. But I remember those days, just after school, rushing home.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll go hang out with my friends, Saturdays were crazy from 8 till 12 for the most part. Some of the good shows then, too.
Yeah, I know
I
that.
just loved that time.
That
Right.
was. But I was kind of in the same position as you were. If I didn't get home in time, I would miss like the first 15 minutes of G.I. Joe. I'd catch, Transformers because they had G.I. Joe at 3:30, Transformers at 4, and Thundercats at 4:30.
Yeah.
And 3 o'clock was either Voltron or Robotech, depending. And I think it actually ran Transzor Z as well. At least in my area.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I know I saw all 3 of those at one point or another. So
I didn't get to see Transzor Z or any of that. What was that? Force 5 with the other robots, Guy King and I can't remember who else. Basically, the Shogun Warriors, but they didn't call it Shogun Warriors.
I don't think I ever saw that at all. I do remember somehow once finding Macron 1 and watching that. That theme song has taken up permanent residence in my head ever since. Oh. So anyway, what should we go ahead and start with?
Well, I believe that we wanted to discuss Muppet Babies first, which is actually one of my picks, if that's okay.
Oh, that's fine.
If I
by
may
me.
butt in.
Well, I did throw it
Okay,
out there.
so-
Anyone else want to challenge the Muppet Babies in their quest for global domination?
They're
Yes, with their-
babies. It wouldn't be much of a challenge, would they?
No, they have that imagination, Mike. Don't forget that. They can summon Star Wars clips at will.
And
Oh
Indiana,
no, they have copyright-free powers. I guess I can't argue with that.
And don't forget, they were also able to summon Indiana Jones clips.
Oh yeah,
That too, yes, the Temple of Doom.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I haven't seen the Muppet Babies since the 80s, so Snarb, go ahead and kick things off.
Gladly. So, I'm trying to think where to start with this. I think this is actually one of those shows I first saw actually on Nickelodeon.
Same.
A lot of my memories of the 80s are actually, in the 90s. I did catch some shows live, mostly at a babysitter's house because she had cable. But Muppet Babies was one of those shows that came on Nickelodeon in syndication. And, I was about the right age, preschool, not preschool, I think it was actually kindergarten and first grade when it would come on. So I was able to catch that in the afternoons after school. And, watching it again as an adult, this is something that I'm going to probably have to go over every single time we discuss one of these cartoons. It's still a very solid show, but, nostalgia is a heck of a drug. Because I just remember the episodes being so much more epic and drawn out than they actually are. They're actually very simple moral stories about, things that babies and younger children actually go through. And it was really easy to connect with it on that level and, feel the same way, the way imagination can run away from you. And you can open a door and then immediately imagine a Star Destroyer, barreling towards you or something like that. Or being afraid of the dark or being afraid of, what's in a closet or something like that. Or, maybe losing a sibling for a little bit, or, they're out of the house, you're by yourself, it's a very good show for that age group. And even as an adult, there's still a lot of jokes that, they go over your head as a kid, and watching it again, it's like, you know what? Those kids are way too mean to Fozzie. Some of his jokes are actually genuinely funny. And it's so funny watching it be like, what the heck? You babies have no taste. Oh, wait, they're babies. Never mind.
Yeah, Fozzie's the designated butt monkey. He tries, damn it, but
Yeah.
I I felt so bad as a kid, even though I thought his jokes were bad at the time or I didn't get them. It's like, don't be mean to him. He's trying. And then as an adult, it's like, okay, you guys are just hecklers. Get the heck out of here.
Like they took lessons from Statler and Waldorf.
Oh yeah,
I'm surprised they didn't show up.
No, they did show up in a few episodes. At least one. They were like their uncles or something like that.
Oh, of course.
But I'm just trying to pluck out some vague memories. I mean, yesterday I watched the episode It's Only Pretendo, where they actually used footage from Fantasy Zone in that one, which is all about video games. Of course, being Kermit, there's a segment about Frogger because it's almost too easy.
Yeah. Also, hey Mo, how's it going?
Oh, hey Mo, what's up?
Oh, how's it going, Mo?
Since you mentioned that, and also, hey Mo, sorry, since you mentioned that, Mike, this was actually my first introduction, I believe, to Star Wars and Indiana Jones, because at the time, those, for some reason, there was a brief period of time between, like, I don't know the exact date, but maybe towards the end of the 80s to the mid-90s, where Star Wars was basically a myth, unless you rented it or your parents were really into it, you didn't see or hear anything about it, unless you were in the books, comics, whatever. Like, I didn't know what that was until Muppet Babies, and I was like, what is this really cool, like, Star Wars-y kind of thing, or whatever the heck this is. They go to the cantina at Mos Eisley,
Yeah, I remember that there.
That bit was really funny, because it's like, wow, there's a bunch of weirdos in this show.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy to think there was ever a goddamn time like that we will never again experience in our lives, and I think that might be a bad thing at this point.
Well,
but
maybe not. I wanted to point out, actually, my earliest memory of Star Wars, now that I remember this, is actually the Ewok special. That was my first introduction to it, and I really liked that. And then my second introduction was Muppet Babies, and I'm like, what is this action-y thing? Why is there this giant space cruiser flying through space shooting laser beams, and like, it wouldn't be until years later that, they started reintroducing it. I caught all of the Star Wars movies on television. They were just being re-aired on, I don't know if it was cable or something else, but because by that point we would have had it. And I was so thrilled by it, like some of the twists because at that point it was starting to re-enter cultural, osmosis again. So I knew about the whole Darth Vader twist, but seeing that, for the first time as a child and like processing that, how devastating that scene is, it's just amazing. And to think it's all linked to Muppet Babies, I have to wonder if maybe that kept it alive a little bit, if that made kids bug their parents. It's like, what the heck is this stuff on Muppet Babies? It's like, oh, that's Star Wars.
Oh, might have helped for me. I remember those aliens looked really freaky to me on the Muppet Babies. Relatively considered, but that it just kind of had its pulse on all sorts of pop culture from various sources, like almost any source you'd think of. Probably some of it was more like relatively generic stock footage, but like that they were able to use so much other footage from like movies and TV shows. That probably made it a little harder to license for DVD releases of this sort, unfortunately.
Yeah, the copy I was watching, to rewatch it, is it was VHS quality. And that's another thing I actually found made it more nostalgic, is that sometimes the only way you could watch a show, especially in the 90s, if you had if you had an older sibling like I did that caught more of those shows actually as they were coming out, was VHS. You'd go to the store, you'd see some weird thing you've never heard of before, some 80s cartoon you'd never heard of, and then you'd take it home, and of course the tracking would be terrible. Our VCR was from the mid 80s. It had seen better days. My dad got it to work again, even though again it was permanently damaged thanks to yours truly. And you just get you get this warbly sound. You get that really freaky intro on some of those videos. What was it, Family Home Entertainment, where it's drawing out the letters. Yeah. And it's just like, oh God, what is this horrible thing? Oh, there's a cartoon. Good, it's over. And you would somehow, even with all the tracking issues, even with the weird warped colors and the bassy sound, you didn't see it. It wasn't actually there. Your brain didn't process it because the cartoon was the most important thing. Most of the shows I remember seeing on VHS were like, late 80s stuff like TMNT, some Gem, which my sister adored, Transformers. And also some oddball stuff you probably don't remember and has never been re-released. Like, I actually had to do some serious digging on IMDb, which has a very good database of cartoons, to find this one that my sister watched called Lady Lovely Locks. And they actually have it. It's out there if you look for it. And that princess in that show is like the meanest princess ever. And it's like so funny watching it. The animation quality is really good, though. It was definitely one of those, probably either if it didn't, it had one of those Japanese studios involved. I'm not sure which one specifically. Pretty much all the 80s cartoons that I think we're discussing were produced or even made in Japan.
Yeah.
Or Korea, probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you would notice that sometimes as a kid. Muppet Babies was like that sometimes too. Sometimes the animation quality would get really good. I love what they do with the backgrounds in that show, because sometimes, to set a mood, they would paint it differently or use pastels or even just pencils. Like, it'd be like a pencil drawing. Or like it would look like it was something out of a newspaper comic. I think like the second episode does a parody of superheroes, one of which is Super Gonzo, who is obviously Superman. And they make it look like a Golden Age comic, like just the way they render it. And it's just, again, it goes over your head as a kid, but you appreciate it so much more as an adult. And that would have given it some real value, if you're a parent watching that with your kids. A lot of people, a lot of parents of millennials and Gen Z seem to hate 80s cartoons for some reason, seem to hate cartoons in general. My mom got sometimes annoyed. My dad would get really annoyed sometimes and want to constantly question or not fully understand it. But sometimes they were just quiet and they would let me watch it.
Sorry.
Well, they didn't quite grow up with it like we did. They would have had Hanna-Barbera, Flintstones, other stuff. And,
let me give you a counterpoint to
this
that,
is actually... What's that?
Okay, my father is from the silent generation, the post-greatest generation, pre-boomers. And
yes.
When we watched cartoons, usually right before he went to work, he would sit down and watch with us.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my grandfather was the greatest generation, I believe. He served in World War II, and he loved cartoons. He loved Tom and Jerry. He would love to watch stuff with me. Like, I remember him watching the premiere, I think, of Dexter's Laboratory with me, or I was watching it in the bedroom at my grandparents' house, because they spoiled me. They put a TV in the bedroom I slept in, and he walked in and he was smiling because he knew I was watching a cartoon. It's like, hey, what you watching? And it was like, I was a little caught off guard, but then it was so great to connect with him on that level and have that, because I didn't always get that from my parents. I remember watching I think it's the 70s Godzilla Hanna-Barbera series with Godzuki.
The Godzuki one?
Oh, God.
Yes, I loved that, though. I liked Godzuki.
Nice,
I actually legit liked him, but my mom would make fun of it. She would make fun of Scooby-Doo, and I got really self-conscious about my taste. So watching this again, I'm glad there were shows that, parents maybe weren't as hard on, or, would make fun of. I don't know why that was a thing for a lot of kids growing up, but, there was this constant thing like, oh, parents just don't get it. You'd see it in advertising too, and my dad would get so mad at that, and then he wouldn't understand why I liked certain shows or cartoons.
The Will Smith
so it's
maxim.
like, maybe there was something there, maybe just a little bit.
Surprisingly enough, my father actually really liked Robotech.
I can understand why. Nice. That's basically a Navy drama in space.
And he was a Navy vet, so...
Yes.
Well, still is. But I did want to point something else out, too, and I'm trying to remember what that was. My train of thought's been derailed.
Was it related to parents and children and the kind of the divide there with the shows and stuff? Or?
Nah, none of that. It's just not coming to me. Instead, I was thinking, before we get into it too far, does anyone else have anything they want to say about the Muppet Babies?
Let me see. I should note that for as much as I saw this one, and like Snarb, I did see it when it was run on Nickelodeon. I should note that I've barely seen much of the actual Muppet Show beforehand, so
yes,
this show's
I was going to say.
This show's 95% of my knowledge basis on the Muppet universe.
Yes.
Which I know that's weird, but because, the Muppet Show, of course, had a lot of guest stars. This, in so much, didn't, but it had the clips to sort of like make up for that in a way. Prime?
I was about to say, once it got to this point, I remember not really seeing the Muppet Show on TV anywhere at that point.
Yeah, I think
so that's not really weird. It kind of filtered out by then.
Yeah.
Yes, it was like Star Wars in that respect. Yes, it kind of just filtered out of cultural osmosis for whatever reason. And yes, this was my introduction to the Muppets too. And it was great seeing the actual Muppet Show years later and being able to connect the dots and being able to see how much of the humor crossed over, and especially like how great Gonzo is. Gonzo's the best character. I'm not taking any like discussion on this at all, any arguments. And he's great in Muppet Babies, and he's great in the Muppet Show. And it was great, that he was so great, basically.
Yeah, Gonzo probably is the best, but I was always a fan of Animal, who's like the babbiest of the babbies. He's clearly the youngest, and he clearly has zero impulse control whatsoever. He often ruins things just by existing.
And you know what's nice about that? They accept him for it. That's a good lesson to teach kids. Sometimes you have a younger sibling, they're destructive or disruptive, and it's like, that's okay. They're just figuring things out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a good way.
Sometimes somebody turns out to be a living intrusive thought, and just that's Animal.
I remember too. He was the only one of the Electric Teeth to be depicted as a baby, or was it no? Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. That's what it was.
Yeah. Not every Muppet, of course, made it to babies. I mean, they weren't part of the core cast, but Bunsen, Honeydew, and Beaker would guest fairly frequently. And oh gosh, Baby Beaker is even more of a precious little cinnamon roll than his real life form. But it should also be noted that, and I don't know if she ever actually became a Muppet later, but Scooter's sister, who is all into athletics and is generally nicer than Miss Piggy, sometimes, was actually created entirely for this show, and I thought that was an interesting dynamic, how they ran off of Scooter being like the computer nerd of the group. But
the closest thing
she actually shows up in, I think it was Boom Comics, written by Roger Langridge.
Oh shoot.
She shows up later on in the Muppet Show comic. And by the way, if you can find either the loose issues or the trade paperbacks of that is an amazing series. It just captures the feeling of it, and it's one of those comics where when it got canceled, people were all caps mad, including myself. So
that sucks.
I do remember a Robot Chicken skit where they tried to explain what happened to Skeeter.
Oh God.
What's that?
Yeah.
What does happen?
Well, she inadvertently gets killed by Kermit and Piggy and the rest of them. And they keep it from Scooter. But Scooter finds out the truth eventually, and then the rest of the Muppets start getting picked off by an unknown murderer. And it turns out it's actually Scooter in Skeeter drag.
Wow.
Oh my God. That's a very Robot Chicken skit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was about to say that's on brand for them.
Yeah.
Completely.
But yeah, what else to say? Oh yeah,
well, and can I give a quick shout out here just for a moment, Mike? Sorry.
No.
Mo also says they like the Godzilla cartoon, so yes, thank you, thumbs up there.
Oh yeah, I liked it too. So you're not you people aren't alone on that.
Yay!
Yay! Kermit Flail. Yeah, I just also wanted to mention that Nanny was also unique to this show, and she's an adorable motherly figure whose face is never seen, and she has those neat striped green socks.
Now you chose Skeedaddle.
I remember that my brother actually saw a Nanny costume at a Halloween party once that was just like the green-legged socks somehow without anything on top of them. I don't know. I wish I had a photo of that, but it was apparently really hilarious. So
how about you, Jay? You haven't said much about Muppet Babies at all.
Well, Mike stole one thing I was about to say about it.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, kid.
Nice,
about
Mike.
The fact that the nanny, anyway, the nanny, you just don't see the face. But the other thing I will use then is the fact that we were also doing the movies back then too, such as Muppets Take Manhattan.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was looking up the Muppet Babies earlier today, just to refresh my stuff, there is a scene in that movie that Miss Piggy was going on about, and there's a live action version of the Muppet Babies in that.
Yep, that was
that's
really nice.
That's what I remembered from
about that.
first.
That was their origin, as I recall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it there first before I saw it on. I think it was on CBS when it first aired.
Mm-hmm.
The show when the show first aired.
I remember it was a whole song and dance number they did.
Yep.
And
I'm like,
theme
oh
song,
my god.
the theme song kind of plays off of that song that's playing during the movie origin, whatever sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
I bet the whole thing was choreographed by Gates McFadden.
Oh wow!
That would be great if so.
She's actually in the movie.
Nice.
Yep.
My Muppet knowledge outside of the Muppet Babies is woefully underbaked, so I gotta get on that at some point.
Yeah,
They had some really good
same.
movies back then too.
Oh yeah.
Which is generally considered the best Muppet movie, the one with Tim Curry.
That could be more generation by generation thing. It just watch them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like for me.
Seriously, just watch them because you're guaranteed a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say
all there is
that
to it.
I haven't been disappointed by any of the movies that I've seen of the Muppets. So, like any of them could be good
Well,
for you, you know.
For me, my go-to Muppet movie is the Muppet movie.
That makes sense.
You look at some of the cameos that were in that. You had Richard Pryor. You had Madeline Kahn, Telly Savalas. That 70s guy, I always refer to him as that because he just like exemplifies the 70s.
You mean Rory Calhoun?
Not him.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Simpsons reference quota fulfilled.
Little Rory Calhoun. Yes. No. Steve Martin's in that. Mel Brooks. Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Charles Durning.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Doc Hopper.
Any of their movies, any of their movies have a lot of cameos. That was their thing, even with the shows. So.
But I will say the one I liked the least was The Great Muppet Caper.
I didn't watch that one.
I
don't recall that.
I remember seeing it, and I was just not impressed with it. I like the Muppets Take Manhattan, and that's kind of where I dropped off with the Muppet movie series until the Muppets came out like a decade or so later. Probably even more than that. So I never saw like Muppet Treasure Island or any of that stuff.
No.
Sounds like the Pee-wee Big Top of the group.
Pretty much. That's a accurate description, I think. Big Top Pee-wee. It's like compared to...
I've never seen that one.
There's probably a reason for that.
Okay.
Well, the less said about Big Top Pee-wee, the better.
Yep.
We'll stick with Big Adventure.
Yep. And the last one they did a few years before Paul Rubens died was pretty good.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw that on Netflix. That was surprisingly good. I was glad to see him get one more shot at it like that.
Yep. That was what Pee-wee's Great Holiday or something like that.
Yeah, either holiday or vacation or something like that. I can't remember which.
Yeah. But yeah, for me again, Pee-wee's Big Adventure will always be where it's at.
Yeah. So the guy wants his bike back. So.
Yeah. Remember, it's in the Alamo, in the basement.
What was it? Marge on the truck there. That scene in all was.
Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent you.
Marge, that's it. Yeah.
I got to see that in the theater when it was new.
Oh, nice.
And the jump scares in that movie hit everybody worse than so many other horror movies I've seen because nobody was expecting it. not just Large Marge, but when he comes back and his bike's gone, and then he looks up at the clown, and the clown looks all messed up.
Yes.
Yep.
I mean, you could feel the whole crowd jump.
Well, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
You know, the part that I always found kind of creepy in that movie was after Large Marge drops him off. I mean, the stop motion creature Burton came up with was, hilarious. But when she drops him off at the diner, he goes inside. Large Marge sent me, and everyone just stops. Did you say Large Marge? But Large Marge, she's... And then that dude stands up and starts telling the exact same story. Why?
And that guy... I was about to say, that guy is Simi Bo. He's also the guy who explains the Lost Souls room in Beetlejuice.
Yes.
That's right. That's
the
right.
Lost Souls room. Poor devils. Anyway. Before...
Yeah, I hate to play Order Muppet, but we should probably get on to the rest of our cartoons. You got a lot of ground to cover.
All right, Order Muppet. So, before we go on to our next one, why don't we all just say a word about our avatars? If everyone's been able to figure it out, great. If not, well, you're going to hear something interesting. So, Prime.
Yeah, the one I picked was Stalker. He was in the first, what they call the original 13 G.I. Joes, that first wave in 1982, and he was pretty good in the mini series and a few episodes later, but he was used a lot more in the comic books. They kept the core cast going instead of, oh, okay, here's the new figure, let's shuffle these guys off and pay attention to the new guys.
Yeah.
So, but Stalker was definitely one of my original favorites. So I picked him. And even though that'll kind of confuse people who are looking to say, okay, Prime's not Prime. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, I'm Prime. You're Stalker. But
he is only yours, Sven. I'm sorry.
How about you, Jay?
Well, yeah, I went with Rick Hunter from Robotech, one of my all-time favorite shows of the 80s. Not exactly one of my picks for tonight. That one's pretty quick to you, but I wanted to showcase him regardless. I just love that show. And he's the main guy from the first series of Robotech. Not going to get into the spiel about Robotech. Get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
And how about you, Mike? Everyone should know your character.
I'm Inspector Gadget. You should know this guy. He was voiced by Maxwell Smart, and I didn't really plan this.
Sorry about that,
Okay.
Chief.
That's okay. I'm going to steal your thunder for a second here, Mike. But I love the connection between Get Smart and that because I watched both as a kid.
I did too, although my memories are a lot
did my
rustier
mic
at Get
just
Smart,
die?
unfortunately. Did your mic just
Hello,
die?
can anyone hear me?
Yep.
No,
Yeah,
I
we
can
can
hear you. I can
Oh,
hear
yeah.
you.
I think my internet just pooped itself. That's great.
Yeah,
You're
technical
still coming
difficulties
through.
are a little wafty on my end, but no, you're good. You're good for now. I was saying that I also grew up watching both of them, although I have very few memories of Get Smart, except I remember distinctly the credits scene where Don Adams just kept walking through a bunch of really cool doors underground. But you guys okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just hearing a few
I think-
weird
I think
sounds
every-
here.
I think everybody had the theme song from Get Smart playing in their head as you were talking about it.
To make sure about Inspector Gadget.
So yeah, that's two international spy shows that Don Adams was involved in with really catchy theme songs. It's like they knew. I mean, I will also note that Inspector Gadget is one of the shows that I picked to discuss tonight, but it is a childhood favorite. His voice is distinctive. His goofiness is legendary. It is definitely an interesting show for several reasons. Although I will have to note at least one asterisk when we get around to it, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah. How about you, Snarb?
Oh, good. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. No worries.
Okay, so I was cutting out for a while. I may cut out again. It says I have full power here. I did want to mention I did watch Get Smart and Inspector Gadget as a kid, so that was a fun connection. If that came through, I apologize for repeating myself. But
Oh, this time he cut out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of us who saw both Get Smart in reruns and got the connection with Inspector Gadget.
Yeah. I mean, I think Inspector Gadget was another show that was steadily running on Nickelodeon.
Oh yeah.
Actually, you know, there's a Simpsons bit involving Get Smart that comes to mind. You know what I'm talking about, Mike?
Sorry, I was talking to Snarl offhand.
yeah, my mic cut out again. Oh, it's cutting out yet again. I'm not sure what's going on here. I wonder if I could switch. You used to be able to switch which network you're connected to, but I can't seem to do that. Hold on.
Hey, Brandon, how's
There's something
it going?
going on.
Right, Brandon.
There's something going on with the network here. Has everyone else gone with their avatar yet? Have you gone yet, Rob? Because I can go after you and hope this clears up.
Yeah, I'm the only one who hasn't yet. So,
Okay.
obviously, I am Optimus Prime. Freedom is the right of all sentient beings. Well, yeah, no, Prime's one of my favorites.
I mean,
He's one of mine, too.
kind of hard to argue with him, really.
Yeah, he steals the show. Let's be real.
He's
Prime.
Optimus Prime.
The ultimate leader of leaders. But
G.I. Joe felt more like an ensemble piece, but Transformers that was Prime show.
yeah, that was Prime versus
Yeah, exactly.
Megatron. That was Prime versus Megatron and a lot of other guys who may or may not be recognizable.
Prime versus Megatron, the series.
Yeah, pretty much.
I've got to help Prime. Stay away, lad. That's Prime's fight.
Oh, we all know how that went.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Hot Rod.
Uh-huh.
Those
Nice
are
going.
grown folks. That's the
Anyway, Snarb, see if you can talk about your Ev.
Okay. Fingers crossed it doesn't cut out. But my avatar is the one and only Quackpot from Dino Saucers. He's basically the sassy member of the villain group. He's not quite the Starscream, but he's constantly belittling and insulting everything the villains do. He seems to be tuned in a little bit better as to what's going on. So obviously he doesn't take it as seriously. And he speaks in kind of a duck voice. In fact, let me see if I can't get to the... Where is that? Where is the...
He'll figure out, I'm sure, that his mic cut out again.
Well, speaking of ducks,
That's for Snarb's network.
yeah, it's. I mean, I was afraid things were going to get fucked up on my end because Storm was passing by like an hour ago, but I think that crap's quiet for now. So
my net's not been
Coming my way.
my connection hasn't been that great either. So I was kind of afraid mine was going to be doing this.
So everyone out
Yeah.
there, just wait for Snarb to come back. And oh yeah, that Simpsons gag I was mentioning, Mike.
yes.
That's the one with Praise Land.
Oh yes. Yeah, the one with not Maud. Right. It's a bee amusement park. For some reason, it's the
Yeah.
line I remember from there.
But it's the one that when Comic Book Guy has his toxic freakout. Or toxic super freakout.
Oh yeah. Now I remember.
My chair.
More so.
It's got a mind of its own. Shizbot, my captain needs me. And then Uhura stands up and says, I want to make out with you. And so do Agent 99 and Catwoman.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You back, Snarb?
I hope so. I tried just restarting Discord. Again, fingers crossed. We'll play it by ear. I don't have much else to say about my character until the show proper, but yes, he's the sassy one of the bunch. And it's hard not to like him. It's really hard not to once you
Maybe-
see the show.
He tends
I
to
remember
jockey with Ankylo as for Genghis Rex's beleaguered right hand. So
Yes, exactly. I remember him more than Ankelo, oddly, but when I was rewatching the series, Ankelo has more of a showing in the early parts. Obviously, it was a syndicated show, so it probably got really messed up in terms of order, so most of the episodes I caught must have had Quackpot in them. I didn't even remember Ankylo, so it's kind of interesting seeing him in, like, you have one that sounds like a pig and one that sounds like a duck. And I don't know if they really even appear in the same episodes.
All right, so what are we going to hit next? I mean, we've already done Muppet Babies, so should we keep going with like the later ones for a while?
I mean, I'd be willing to talk about Inspector Gadget since I was kind of hinging on the edge of that already.
That's true. All right, Mike, hit us.
All right. Well, best memories that I can give. The basic premise of Inspector Gadget is that he is a cyborg agent who collaborates with some sort of apparently international police. He gets assignments from the chief with his mustache and his self-destructing messages that Gadget always throws back at him. My brain is farting out on the chief's actual name. I know he has one.
Oh gosh, it's not Chief Quimby, is it? No,
Quimby,
that's the one
Quimby.
from...
No, Quimby. No, I
Okay.
think you're right. I think you're
I was
right.
going to say that. Yeah.
Vote Quimby. But
We did the Simpsons stream already. Go on.
yeah, I will Simpsons reference whenever I want to, sir. But yes, and Gadget would get his assignments to foil a plot from the MAD Syndicate, MAD, led by the extremely growly Dr. Claw, whose voice is as legendary as Don Adams, one of the most prominent voice actors ever, Frank Welker. Probably best known at large as Freddie Jones from the Scooby-Doo series, which I believe he is still voicing now, I think even in his 80s, crazy enough. But I knew Frank Welker's Dr. Claw, and I was always enamored at how he's just able to create this voice of like pure volcanic evil gravel. I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time.
To be fair, that's actually a kind of vocoder or voice effect, because there are some episodes where he doesn't have that, and I remember that weirding me out as a kid. Like, why does he just sound kind of like an old man going like, rah, 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 rather than the weird mecha man?
Right. It was probably, it was very likely enhanced by post production effects. Funny enough, I realized that is actually similar effects were applied to Welker's voice to give us sound waves, immortal monotone from Transformers. There was one sound error in Transformers where Soundwave sounded exactly like Dr. Claw instead, which I found really funny.
We were talking about that in the Discord.
That's right. I mentioned that. I was talking about. I forget if I mentioned that error and an error where two Star Screams blatantly appeared on the screen at the same time. I think one of them was supposed to be like Thundercracker, but they accidentally colored it in like Star Scream. So.
Yeah, animation errors like that were kind of commonplace.
Very common.
Yeah,
Yep.
I know that TMNT had a lot of them in particular. James Roll made like a video pointing out 20 of them. Anyway, Gadget.
Or Donatello's?
Yes.
Oh, and also that was the voice he used in the Super Friends series for Darkseid.
Oh, really?
Oh,
wow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, I know that Welker basically uses Fred voice for Bobby, for Iceman. So, I didn't know he was Darkseid. That's actually a really good fit. Wait a minute. Darkseid and Spider-Man? I thought he was.
I said Super Friends.
Yeah, you said Super Friends.
Oh,
Pay
wow.
attention, Mike.
Wait, which Super Friends? The original or the 80s one? There was an 80s reboot that only lasted for like a few episodes, if I recall.
Yeah, he was in the last official Super Friends series. I think it was called something like Super Friends: The Legends of the Superpowers Team or something like that. And then he was in that last show that was Superpowers. Even they called it Superpowers, but it was really just another Super Friends series.
Didn't that have the?
But it was the one with the better character designs.
That was the show that had the Wonder Twins, right? Or am I thinking of something else?
They had the Wonder Twins early on. They shuffled them out either like early. I think even before the '80s, they were shuffled out.
Good. Form of Wonder Woman's bathwater.
You didn't like Mr. Bucket of Water Changer? Anyway, yeah, I should also note that I'm actually kind of a secret nerd for voice actors, and I know that several of these shows had several prominent actors that starred in multiple of them. Welker was one of them. You'd also hear Michael Bell, Neil Ross, and Greg Berger in a lot of them, among others.
Chris Latta. And
of course, Peter Cullen, Natch.
Peter Cullen.
But yeah, just the voice actors never get enough respect, damn it. But that's another.
I have a quick question for you, Mike.
What's up?
Do you know if Frank Welker also voiced Mad Cat? Because isn't Frank Welker the guy who does almost all the animal sound effects for cartoons, or did?
He does, yeah. Before D. Bradley Baker was on the scene, Welker pretty much was like every animal voice ever. Yes, and so I believe yes, he was also Mad Cat, if I'm not mistaken.
Man, talking to yourself.
Yeah, pretty much. That's actually pretty funny when you put it that way. Yeah, Mad Cat being this snarky little jerk who smiles a lot, but then Dr. Claw keeps almost hitting him, and he does seem like the type who'd unfortunately abuse animals because he's just that evil. And also notable that you only ever see Dr. Claw's arms behind his chair. Infamously, there was like a toy which actually showed his face, but he looks kind of anticlimactically just like a man in like at least his 50s with kind of wacky hair, but like it was I forget how canon that is.
It was better left to the imagination. Yeah. That's something better left to the imagination.
Yeah, and also, let's not talk about that Matthew Broderick film either. I never saw it.
I was about to say, let's not mention that, but you did that.
I fucking went there. I'm sorry.
I remember the commercials for that one offending me as a kid. It's like, this is an Inspector Gadget.
No.
I do not acknowledge it as such, like I do not acknowledge the 2014 RoboCop as RoboCop. But I digress. Anyway, back on line with Gadget. Gadget gets his assignments from the Chief, and somehow he brings his teenage niece, Penny, and their dog, Brain, along on their capers. Which kind of seems like child endangerment because, like, you know, these bad guys do get up to some potentially dangerous stuff. Like, you can only depict so much as what I assume was supposed to be a kid's show was aimed to be. But, like, my memory was that Penny was actually, like, hyper-competent one of the crew, and she ultimately saves the day, but interestingly, rewatching the episodes I did, maybe this changes more so down the line. I was mostly refreshing my memory in the earlier episodes. Penny's actually kind of more of a millstone than I remember her being, because she gets kidnapped like almost every freaking episode somehow.
Yeah, that's my memories of the show is Penny trying to help and getting kidnapped, and that always kept me on the edge of the seat. That always really bothered me because it was so scary because, you know, the Mad Agents are all big, you know, like doofuses that are, you know, they clearly aren't going to care about this kid's well-being, and like they always threaten her and other sort of stuff. They never really ultimately do anything. And I also want to say, it's to be fair to Gadget, a lot of the time he's like, okay, Penny, you need to stay back behind. I'm not going to hire a babysitter or anything, but you just need to stay at home.
And she knows the Spritle and Chim Chim hiding in the car trunk technique.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Pretty much. I think it's usually Brain that tends to actually be the prime mover in these. He's kind of like I believe he came out a few years before Wallace and Gromit, but kind of reminds me of that, how he's actually the one doing the heavy lifting. Gadget does actually get shit done too, but it's mostly by accidentally blundering into a lot of stuff, and his
Chaos Muppet.
Yeah.
Yes, Chaos Mob is a good way of putting it. His gadgets tend to malfunction quite often. Like, he wants to say, like, go-go gadget roller skates, but then his coat inflates instead. They like the inflation a lot on that show, which, I don't know.
Don't let DeviantArt hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, please don't.
I will be quiet. But nonetheless, they still somehow get things done. Like the circus episode was really fun. That one was interesting because I think Gadget legitimately made a better entertainer than he did Secret Agent. But
He missed his calling.
I mean, yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. But he should. But he eventually gets things done. Although usually his rather over the top antics tend to exhaust his rescuees and the chief, but they know he gets stuff done and he just does things his own way with his crazy cyborg things, but he's a little bit of an like Snarp said, chaos muppet, which is half the show's entertainment. Basically, it's just like he gets assignment, goes to place being threatened by mad agents, wacky shit happens, he wins, but Dr. Claw always gets away. It's a fairly straightforward formula, but for the most part, it is just very fun to see this apparently partly metal man just spring shoes his way through whatever evil plots are being cooked up. But
you didn't mention the car yet, Mike.
Oh yeah, he does have a
the
car.
badass car.
Yeah.
Yes, which changes from a ordinary van to a police vehicle. What would I say it reminds me of? I mean, all I can think of is that's a little bit Batmobile-ish in that sense. But, there is some crazy driving that happens in the show. Lots of, clumsy physics, let's say. And that leads me to a point that I wanted to get to, which interestingly coincides with a series that I finally got into. And now that I have, I can't unsee the parallels. And this is fucking bizarre. Inspector Gadget was, at some point, originally conceived as an American future spin-off of the Lupin the Third series. Gadget was originally going to be Lupin the 8 or something. Obviously that had to be hella toned down as a kid's show, but now having actually watched some Lupin, I can see some parallels.
Yes, you can.
Lupin and Gadget, while one's more horny than the other, although Gadget does show some amorousness towards ladies at times too. At the end of the day, they just do a lot of chaotic shit that eventually usually wins. I mean, Lupin has some losses, and his chaos is a lot more deliberate. Gadget's a lot more bumbling, but yeah, it's weird that I can actually see the similarities between them and where the concept for an American future Cyborg Lupin spin-off came from. So that's just really interesting how I picked both of those. How I picked Lupin up and then I got back to Gadget. And it's just they're both very fun shows in very different ways, I can say.
Well, I'm not going to try and cut you short here, but I don't know if anyone else has anything to say about Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, it does.
Did
I
anyone
think he
hear
said a
about,
lot.
Did anyone
you go
hear
first.
about the original voice actor?
Oh?
There's a pilot episode, right?
Yep. And it's a
Isn't that
different
where he had the
voice.
mustache?
Yep.
Oh,
And he was voiced by Gary Owens,
Really?
Space Ghost.
Oh, that's
Wow.
awesome. That I could also see working really well,
And
actually.
it's crazy because you can't unhear in regular Inspector Gadget because it's so iconic, but at the same time, it's Gary Owens. He's a legend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I gotta look that up at some point. Definitely, that'd be awesome. Just if Don Adams were still alive, I would pay him to say, as usual, "You've been a real pant load." I could totally hear that coming out of his mouth too. Oh man, that'd be that. Wow, that's incredible.
How about you, Jay?
My thought was about when I was a kid watching that show. I always wanted Penny's book.
Oh,
Yes.
Almost everything in that book.
Yeah,
That was cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I almost forgot about
Yeah.
that book.
She is smart in books, not in sensibility of getting kidnapped. But yes.
Yeah, I mean, she was the one that was getting close to the enemies the most, so that's why she always got kidnapped. And Bueno is always the one that was doing the heavy lifting, while Gadget was the distraction, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. They have their odd trio dynamic, but it works for them. Snarb, if you want to say, Jay or Snarb, if you want to say anything else, there were a couple other things I could think of to mention also.
The biggest thing was my favorite episode was when Dr. Claw went to Japan. He met the other villain in that. He had his own cat.
Yeah.
And then Inspector Gadget was always dealing with the committee that he called them. Oh, the welcoming committee. They're actually the bad guys and trying to be nice to them. But I'm like, oh, such a great episode, though.
Let me see here. I would like to note that much like Muppet Babies, but even to a greater degree, this show has so much adult humor in it that you don't pick up on. Like, Gadget will casually complain, it's like, why do trees show up whenever you're trying to back up in a car? And it's like, Gadget, you're not wrong there. You're not wrong. And there's actually an episode where he gets proper drunk. They don't call it alcohol, but it's obviously alcohol. And of course, he's like trying to do like an IndyCar kind of thing or NASCAR. So he's driving drunk, and it's like, how did they get away with this exactly?
Yeah.
There's the Lupin-ness coming into prominence there. So
Now that you mentioned about the Lupin thing, that makes a lot more sense.
that's fucking crazy.
Yep.
I had no idea.
I only read about that like maybe a few years ago, and it just, like Mike said, it blows your mind when you first hear it. But then as you start thinking about it, it's like, I can see how they got there. I can see how they got to Inspector Gadget starting from that point.
Yeah.
As insane as it is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't unsee that.
I'm going to just say that I spent a lot of time watching Inspector Gadget as a kid, but haven't seen it since. Although, to bring something else up, I did see the Robot Chicken sketch.
Are you mentioning Robot Chicken for all of these? I should ask.
No, I actually remember these a little more clearly.
You know what? Fair point.
But what happened in that one was he needed replacement parts. So Dr. Claw slipped him a shipment of parts from Cyberdyne.
Oh, God.
Oh, yes.
I think I remember this now.
Yep. And it was Inspector Gadget, the Terminator.
God damn. That does bring to mind something that I wanted to mention. The show is very inconsistent to the degree that Gadget is cybered up. Like, sometimes he's like, just in like shorts and an undershirt, and he looks like a regular human underneath, but like otherwise it's like supposed to be implied that like his like limbs are entirely cyberized when he's in his full coat and pants, and like I can't tell exactly how, like, unless there's like a diagram to explain like how his technological thingies work. It's just funny how they kind of play fast and loose. I mean, that's obviously cartoon logic. That's obviously something they don't think about nearly enough. But it's just weird. I find it amusing.
Probably multiple writers on the show.
Another good point. That is true.
Yeah.
But for the most part, Gadget is a very fun show. Although I do have to note an asterisk that there are a few episodes where he goes to other parts of the world that are a little culturally dicey, let's say. Like the one where he goes to India has some gags of the country that's a little bit.
It's very Temple of Doom, let's put it to you that way.
He doesn't out and out eat chilled monkey brains, but it's like, a third of the way there at least. But there's also a later episode where they go to Hong Kong, I believe, and the agents there of like an Asian crime lord are just like, ugh, like I don't know. It feels like something out of a bad Peter Sellers movie. The best way I can put it. But that's unfortunately a thing that I think did pockmark a few of these shows here and there before PC considerations. I mean, I'm thinking of a very infamous example in Transformers, but maybe we won't get to that. I don't know.
We may or may not, yes.
Yeah, but for the most part, I do still really like Gadgets. Just occasionally it does have a few pitfalls like that, but oh well.
I do want to address something Mo just posted here.
Oh, yeah, what's up?
She loved Robot Chicken's Apocalypse Pony.
Oh?
That was one of my favorite skits on that show.
Oh, dang, I'll have to track that down.
Was that before fans wrote that Fallout spinoff with the newest MLP series?
I guess.
What the fudge?
It's definitely based on the 80s show. But
okay, yes, with the chunkier ponies.
Yes, and this ends up being the Apocalypse Ponies are the 4 ponies of the apocalypse.
That was great.
My favorite one, of course, was Death Pony. It's like, and I'm Death Pony. Oh, the poor thing can't hear. No, Mom, he said, roar! And he just vaporizes the entire family. Great stuff.
I'll have to look that up.
It's worth it.
Right. Gotcha.
Okay, so let's say we can slip another lighthearted one in, or we can start getting to a little more of the I hesitate to use the word serious, but
the Action Team cartoons, basically.
There you go, the Action Team cartoons.
That's one way to put it.
So, who votes for kind of cute or kind of Action Team? I don't ever speak at once.
Dude, I don't know.
Well, all right. Say we round out our cute ones. We also have Disney's Adventure of the Gummy Bears.
Yes.
Oh, Brandon votes cute, so all right, Gummy Bears it is.
Gummy Bears.
Yep.
Drumming worked out on that.
Bouncing
And that
here and there and
catchy
everywhere.
tune. Oh, yeah.
All right, so go ahead and kick it off, Jay.
Yeah, so my pick was Adventures of Gummy Bears. I had to think of something a little different than what I originally was going to pick until I saw your picks. So I went with the Adventures of Gummy Bears, just a little different Disney show versus what some of the other ones are more popular, like DuckTales and
Chip and Dale?
Chip and Dale, which
Correct.
was I actually owned that one. That was one of my all-time favorites. But I love mysteries, so that's a whole different thing. But the Gummy Bears, what I loved about it was a fantasy show. It had these gummy bears enjoying life in the forest, and they had this gummy berry juice that the villains of the show want, and they would help out these two humans. One is a boy who usually is with his princess, and they help each other out. And I just love the whole lightheartedness of it, especially when it first came out. I was like 7 or 8. So like watching cartoons back then was like, oh yeah, I love the show. The biggest memory was the song. That's what would grab you right away. As soon as you hear the song, you're like, I'm in. I want to know more about this Gummy Bears, and them bouncing around and having a good time.
I think you mean they're bouncing here and there and everywhere.
They're Gummy
Adventures
Bears.
Beyond compare.
They are the Gummy Bears.
Daring, courageous and caring, faithful and friendly, with stories to share. I won't sing anymore because it's Disney and copyrights will come down on our heads really fucking hard if I sing anymore.
Whatever you do. Anyway.
Gummy
Go to
Bears!
hell, Disney, you can just go to hell. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, go
right.
ahead, Jay. No, I was just going to make a wayward comment about Disney, but I'll hold off until you explain more.
Oh, okay. I was just going to mention a couple of like the voices. For instance, we had Lorenzo Music in it.
Yes, that's
voice
Tony.
of,
Yes, Garfield.
Yep.
Garfield, yes. He also
Garfield and
did
Peter
Peter
Pan.
Pan from
Yep.
Ghostbusters, which was another show I really loved at the time.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
I totally forgot that he was in the show until I did some research about this again. I'm like, oh my god, I hear that voice from the Gummy Gummy. They had some interesting names for the characters too of the gummies. We had Zummy Gummy, Gruffy Gummy. Zummy was the kind of the wizard looking one. Gruffy was their craftsman. Grammy was always the matriarch, and then we had Tummy, which was voiced by Lorenzo Music, who was the bigger one of the group. And you had the two kids. One was always trying to be more looking for the human culture and all that. But you had your villain called Duke Sigmund Igthorn. What a name. I also like their cousin. I think it was their cousin or something like that. But he was a gummy bear that was not always on the show, but he'll come in and he just kind of throws things off from them. I don't know. It was a lot of fun show. Just again, like I said, lighthearted, but you did have that fantasy feel to it, which I love fantasy in the first place. And I think this was one of the first real fantasy shows that got me into it, into that array of like Lord of the Rings and others, things like that. But yeah, I don't know. It was just a lot of fun to watch.
Also, someone feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't that actually predate DuckTales?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
it did, yes.
It-
I think
it
in the
premiered-
state... Go ahead.
It premiered along another show that everybody has forgotten. That I remember having vague memories of as a kid, and then discovering later and be like, "Oh, so that's what that's called." I believe it was called was it the Woozles or something like that?
It was
weird
the
animal
Wuzzles.
hybrids.
Wuzzles or the
Wuzzles. Wuzzles, I think.
Wuzzle?
Yeah, Wuzzles.
Yeah,
Yes.
Wuzzles.
Yeah.
Mike, is that what passes
And-
for entertainment these days?
Ladies and gentlemen, Clown Show's been on highest rated. Yes, the Wuzzles. Okay, I actually just have not heard of this at all before, so continue.
yeah.
I always wanted the gummy berry juice too, as a kid anyway.
I just wanted to try some of that stuff. Wonder if it really tasted like berries.
Probably wine, if I had to guess.
Yeah, that's why they bounced around so much.
Probably.
They were drunk.
Unfortunately,
That's why they were bouncing. That makes a lot more sense now.
unfortunately, the potion only apparently works once a day per humans, or so they decided later.
Yeah.
Because in the pilot episode, it worked twice.
Yeah, just I guess getting the kinks sorted out. But I was just thinking, like, boy, I sure hope they got fired for that blunder, kinda, for inconsistencies. But yeah, I digress. Jay, do you have anything?
The rules. Come on.
Sorry about that. My headphones were kind of bugging out here.
Yeah.
No worries.
Difficulties all around tonight. There's just something in the stupid internet. I don't know.
Who knows?
Work better, internet.
Yeah. Stupid internet. Be more connected.
Yes.
That'll work.
But that was also a show I watched quite a bit because I just loved cartoons. I didn't really care if it was Disney.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, come on, I'm a huge DuckTales mark, so if that tells you anything.
Yeah.
Oh,
Plus that show just looked immediately gorgeous when you saw it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just right off the bat, you could just tell they put a lot of work into that. They weren't half stepping at all.
Mm-hmm.
If we ever do a sequel to this stream, I'm definitely talking about DuckTales.
Oh, and Chip and Dale. That'll be one. That would be my other choice.
We can make it the Disney afternoon cartoon stream.
There is a few of them, right?
There's quite a bunch.
DuckTales.
I feel conflicted giving Disney any credit nowadays because they're kind of like the downfall of modern mainstream entertainment. But that was now, this is then, as I like saying.
Right, it's like talking about Activision circa 1982.
Yeah,
there you
that's
go.
a good way of putting it.
Like, something to keep in mind, this show was kind of a Hail Mary for Disney because The Black Cauldron came out, I think, either the same year or the year before, and it almost tanked the company. This was Disney in dire straits, basically. The Oliver and Company era, whatever you want to call it, because there's a bunch of like offbeat movies they did that.
The Great Mouse Detective.
I love both. Great Mouse Detective and Black Cauldron was really good too. But yeah, I can see why at the time on Disney was doing like other movies that were, I guess, more safe than that. But
Interestingly enough, I actually went and saw Oliver and Company when it was in theaters.
nice.
I like that one, but I can see why it wasn't popular at the time, and also why they kind of tried to bury it too. But I think history has borne out that it's actually a pretty decent film overall.
Yeah. So, all right.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about an era where Disney was ever had their fucking backs to the wall, and then just like, well, I don't want to dwell on that too much. I mean, in the 80s, they did actually have a lot of really freaking cool stuff going for them. Like, I haven't seen much of Gummy Bears so far, but I have liked what I've seen. It is just very lighthearted.
Oh, nice, Mo.
This feels maybe a little unfair to say, but it feels like a higher quality version of the Smurfs. I don't know. That's
Yeah,
really
that's
terrible
that's
comparison.
that's kind of how I think about it. Along with the idea that they kind of boiled the cast down so that there's a better dynamic instead of there being, hundreds of Smurf characters all over the place.
Definitely.
It's
Only one girl.
Yep. This one has two
well,
female
you got two.
adventurers.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you
And-
had the princess, and then you had Sunny.
And
But they have a great group dynamic though.
yeah,
Yes.
Gruffy and Grammy are basically just like yelling baka at each other a lot. I find their arguing
Pretty much,
very
yeah.
amusing. But yeah, I have liked what I've seen so far. It's lighthearted, but like not in a fluffy, cheesy way. It is actually quite entertaining. Like it feels like a show that has a genuine sense of adventure, and it's just animated really freaking well. I have really liked what I've seen, and I would like to get on more in the near future. I just hope that they get the potion rules straight later on.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Now-
It's dramatic. It's dramatic writing or whatever they call it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now, Sharon says the Gummy Bears remind her of the Care Bears. And to which I say,
I could also.
I don't know. They didn't have anything they could shoot rainbows out of their butts or whatever. And they didn't have a bunch of other animal friends either.
But it's interesting that comparison comes up because the Care Bears movie, the first one, that ate the Black Cauldron's lunch for a much lower budget. And that was a big thing that was kind of like made Disney kind of reevaluate and go like, oh, okay.
Bears, huh? How can we use this?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
true.
Yeah, I actually thought Gummy Bears was Care Bears for a second before actually watching it, and I was like, hey, isn't this a show that Rugrats made fun of for being too diabetically sweet? But it was actually mocked, I remember, in an episode where they went to the theater, but Rugrats is the 90s, so I will shut up now.
Yeah, get your 90s out of our 80s.
I'll try to. Unfortunately, as what I would consider myself centrally more so a 90s kid than an 80s kid, I might have trouble with that, but I'll do my best.
Yeah, that's fair. Anyway, so anyone else have anything to say about the Gummy Bears?
Yes, actually. This is one of those series I actually caught in the 80s. My memories actually begin between the ages of 3 and 4, which I've heard is actually kind of shocking for most children. But this is one I remember actually sitting down and watching at a babysitter's place when I used to live in Tucson, Arizona. And I just remember, I agree with Jay on this one. It's what I would call storybook fantasy or cozy fantasy. And it's the kind of thing I kind of miss where the fantasy setting is just kind of, it's not exactly window dressing, but they do fun things with it, but it still feels very down to earth. It's very cozy. There's a good ensemble cast there. You like all the characters. Sometimes you don't like the characters. They have their rough spots, but that's kind of the point. But another nice thing is that it's 80s fantasy, so they sometimes, they mess around and they do things with it that, you don't always see in modern fantasy. Like the last episode I saw had these things called Carpies, and they looked a lot like the Skeksis from The Dark Crystal. And they actually capture Sunny, and they're kind of just really nasty and sinister looking because they're like these vulture people, werevultures, and it's just, that's the kind of thing. And they live in this giant spiral mountain, and it's just the kind of imagery you kind of only get from like pulp fantasy of a certain era. And
Yeah,
I really miss that, and it left an impression on me.
Yeah, it's not the type of fantasy that feels like it's patently ripping off J.R.R. Tolkien, like 98% of all Western fantasy works ever seem to do. So,
Yeah.
kudos to any fantasy setting that actually feels original and feels like it stands on its own power like that.
Welcome to the
that's what I
fantasy
like
zone.
about Yeah,
Get ready.
Dark Crystal and things like that. That wasn't quite like the Tolkien style.
Yeah.
Gummy Bears definitely is shaped more so of, like you're saying, storybook stuff.
Yeah.
I do wonder that particular episode that you were talking about, it got inspiration from the Dark Crystal. I'm not 100%.
I was
sure,
wondering
but
that myself because
Yeah,
their
it was very
demeanor
sketchy.
and manner is very similar, very craven and just mean, which is always a great thing in a cartoon. They kind of, I will say this, Disney always has great villains. Igthorn is great. The Carpies are great. I
Yes.
love the dynamic the villain has with his little butt monkey, who sounds like Droopy Dog. I forget his name, sadly. But the ogres are so cool. Like the actual villain army, they're not competent, but they're strong and they can actually tear stuff up. And it's like, like, I hope they can outsmart these guys faster than they can smash things to bits,
Oh, his toady is called Toadwart. He is apparently called Toady sometimes, though. So it's
Interesting.
And it is noted that he kind of resembles Creeper from the Black Cauldron. So there you go. I wonder if, like, you know what? Thought aside, was Gummy Bears maybe at some point planned to be like a Black Cauldron series before it got retooled?
That I don't know.
Maybe not. Black Cauldron is actually based on a series of fantasy books. I think that have sort of a Welsh, or I think it was it's like Welsh fantasy or something. I may have gotten that wrong. I just know it's somewhere in the United Kingdom, and they were going to do more movies, I guess, or something like that. They also recently rebought the license about 5 years ago, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and then just sat on it. So someone there really has a soft spot for it, but they just can't get it to take off,
Yeah.
The books were The Chronicles of Hiding.
That's right, yes.
I mean, why can Disney take a gamble when they just release more Marvel and Star Wars? Okay, I'll shut up.
Well, to be fair, the Black Cauldron, like we were saying, it didn't do so hot. Like, it didn't break. It did half of its budget, which is unfortunate. The movie is good.
I think The Secret of NIMH killed it in the box office, though, didn't it?
Damn.
Yeah.
I only finally saw Secret of NIMH recently. Quite good. I got a lot to catch up on. I still haven't seen Black Cauldron myself.
Oh, we're really touching on my childhood there. Jeez.
Oh, yes.
It's really hard to find that movie. It was for a long time, and it still kind of is. They buried it.
Yeah, I'm glad I have it. I think on Blu-ray.
Oh,
wow.
Nice.
It's out there. Anything you want to add, Prime?
Oh, I was yammering about it earlier. Just the idea that as soon as I saw it when it was on TV, originally airing, and it's like the first time you see it, you just instantly get taken by it. And I'm old, even as an older viewer, I was like that, especially when you just see how beautifully animated it is.
All right.
Especially that opening theme, it just catches you right away.
Oh yeah.
You're still curious about these bears.
So, let's move on to the action pack. I think we should kick this off with Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Oh, yeah.
Prime?
This is an interesting...
Spider-Man.
Oh, right now I have to talk for a long period of time.
You can talk for as long or as short as you want to.
Okay, because I'll try to keep this as short as I can here. Marvel Productions had just basically started up from being, and here's the other part. I'm used to reading this stuff. I don't know how it's pronounced, but the Patty Freeling, they did the Pink Panther cartoons, and then in the 70s they also did that Fantastic Four cartoon that didn't have the Human Torch because they didn't have the rights to him.
The one that hurt me.
There was going to be a separate. I think they were going to try and do a TV show with just the Human Torch like they did with the Hulk. So his rights got split off. So when they made the cartoon, they had to make a character. which that's going to play into what I'm about to say about Spider-Man. When Marvel started up, they were working on a Spider-Man show. They tried to sell it, and they said, "Look, you're gonna need a cartoon dog in this, and you're gonna need." And seriously, from interviews I've read, that's what the NBC exec said, and it needs to be a teen because basically superheroes, the biggest thing was at that time it was the Super Friends. They'd been on the air since the 70s.
So they said they were going to need a talking dog,
No, they said a cartoon dog.
a cartoon. That's like the equivalent
Like
of
just
saying,
not just a dog that happens to be in the cartoon. It has to be a cutesy dog.
"Oh boy." That's like saying that
So
he should always have access to a time machine.
so here's the crazy part, and some people don't even know this show exists. They had a Spider-Man cartoon started, and that's the solo Spider-Man cartoon from the same year that you see in syndicate. Some people saw it in syndication. Other people they didn't know about it until it hit Disney Plus.
Hmm.
But so what they did was they started developing Spider-Man as Amazing Friends. Originally, it was going to be, and it had to have friends in the title because once again, Super Friends.
Yep.
So it was going to be Spider-Man. They picked Iceman because he was considered like the constant teenager character because he was the youngest of the original 5 X-Men. And
Okay.
even then, he even after they left and it was taken over by the group with Storm, Wolverines, and so on, he was still considered almost like the young guy. So they had him in there. They were going to get the Human Torch. His rights were still messed up. So they made a new character, and that was Firestar. And she was made specifically for this cartoon.
So she's kind of like Harley Quinn, like a decade earlier in a way, kind of.
Yeah, because she makes her way into the comics years later.
Nice.
So they get this cartoon together, and you've got two forces putting this cartoon together. You've got the veteran cartoon people. They're used to the more cutesy stuff because they just put, they just put this company together. But you've also got people working on it who know the comics hardcore, and it's not just Stan Lee. You've got like these young artists who grew up on it, and then some even worked in comics before they came into the cartoon industry. So what you get is you get a show that's part Marvel Comics and it's part regular. I don't know, just a regular cartoon. So you'll get something like, okay, they're fighting the Sandman in one episode, and then in another episode, it goes into what's basically a 50s horror movie where they're basically fighting this swarm of bees that forms
Yes.
into one character, and he's got this crazy vocal effect, and he's like, hold on, you will work for Swarm. Like, and
that is a great episode.
It is really cool, yeah.
That vocal effect, because also like that vocal effect they gave Black Manta and Super Friends, and I kind of wonder if they kind of got the idea from that, is because as you see, and I mean, you've got a whole show where everybody's got vocal effects coming up. They go kind of nuts with the vocal effects in the show, but anyway, the whole premise is Spider-Man, Iceman, and Firestar. They all go to the same college. They stay in Aunt May's house. At one point, they fight the Beetle, who kidnaps some rich guy named Tony Stark. And that's the other thing. This show dips into the Marvel universe. After they save Tony Stark, he gifts them with the equipment that's somehow hidden in Aunt May's house. She was out getting wheat cake ingredients or something, I don't know. But they show the truck pull up to the house, they install the equipment and leave, and that's when they pull the button and all the equipment comes out. But when Aunt May knocks on the door, they got to pull the lever again, and all the stuff hides away.
So that was Tony Stark that installed that?
Yep, because
Wow.
there's an episode in, I think it's season 3, Origin of the Spider Friends. And there's even a little clip later on where they said, "Wow, I wonder where Iron Man is. He's not defending Stark Industries." And they show a clip of Iron Man in space helping out a space shuttle. And then they cut away from it. So at least you get a little glimpse of Iron Man.
Nice.
Huh. Yeah.
But this was probably, well, I can't say it's the first because the Spider-Man show they worked on before this, it also dips into the Marvel universe a lot with cameos, but this show, it was seen by more people, so more people were introduced to characters like the X-Men, and once again, the guys who were more comic book fans were pushing to have more guest stars and real Spider-Man villains, while the other side of it, they wanted to make up stuff for people to run into, and it just sometimes the episodes vary.
Yeah, I'm seeing this one where Electro creates a villain by the name of Video Man.
I was going to talk about that too.
An original creation. I didn't get to that one yet, but it sounds stupid.
Okay, I'll explain the whole thing, because there's an entire arc to this concept.
Oh wow!
The side of the company that wants to make up their own stuff, they come up with Video Man, and he's part of the Electro episode where they're in an arcade. And who's that? It was in the first one it was Flash Thompson that was crazy about Video Man. And of course, as every arcade episode and just about every other cartoon, some of the characters get sucked into the game. So while those characters are inside fighting that, Video Man's outside the video game, and Spider-Man has to fight him. So that's just one episode in the first season. Season 2, Video Man shows up there's an origin episode for Iceman.
Huh.
They fight him there. Nobody knows how he came back. He's just back. Now, because it's kind of funny, but I'll talk about the season 2 episodes in a second. But in season 3, there's a nerd who shows up who's in their college, and they're in, I guess it's the same arcade. I didn't really rewind and look at the other episodes to see if it was, but there's a video. No, there wasn't a Video Man machine in that episode, but somehow this guy who's in the arcade playing games somehow gets the power to turn into Video Man. They really wanted this character to work.
I'll say.
And the weird reason why, they were going to make a spinoff called the X-Men, and they were going to put this Video Man character in it.
Really?
Because they, like I said, the cartoon side of the company had their own, like I said, they wanted to have their way on certain things. So it's a great show, but every once in a while you feel the tug and pull between two different forces of it. But when it works amazingly well.
Now, the whole Video Man thing, though, that just makes me think kind of shades of Tron, with the whole being sucked into the game.
Yep.
That's basically it. But the crazy part is, this was a thing that happened, and there's also a Super Friends episode, but I'm trying to remember if that was before or after Video Man, but it was around the same time. There was one, what were they? Well, there was one where they turned small and they were stuck in a pinball game, but then there was another where they're trapped in a maze it was a Pac-Man with teeth, with fangs. And it's funny because I think that was the go-to thing for every cartoon in the 80s. If they were doing a bootleg Pac-Man, for some reason he had fangs. And that's what this one had. In the first Video Man episode, no, wait a minute. No, I think it was in the second Video Man episode when the game broke open, they had to fight a Pac-Man with fangs, and then the UFO from Asteroid.
Oh, jeez.
And
That's what I remember.
that was fun. But some of the standout episodes in the show, and this is where you can tell when the comic guys went out. There's an episode called Seven Little Superheroes. The three Spider Friends get an invitation to a castle. They get there. Captain America, Doctor Strange, Namor the Submariner,
Fuck yeah, Namor!
and Shauna the She-Devil. They're in there.
Shauna, really?
And yeah. And
Yeah,
I'm like, and I didn't even know who she was when I saw this episode. I knew who everybody else was, but Shauna, that was like this, it was like that's when this show was starting to teach me stuff, because I was a kid. I didn't know who all the superheroes were yet. So they start getting picked off. Oh, and they had to bring the dog because that it's the first season. The dog's mandatory.
Yeah, that's like that Happy Days cartoon where Fonzie had a dog named Mr. Cool.
Yeah, but that was part of the 80s. And here's the thing. All these younger fans who come in and say, oh, well, all these cartoons were like this and like that, and they try to put it on the cartoons. They don't understand the networks made them do a lot of this stuff. There were limits to what you could do. Actually, if you look around, there's a Batman the Animated Series picture of Batman crashing through a window while being shot through the stomach by the Joker. Catwoman is wearing lingerie and has a cigarette in her mouth, and it was a picture of all the stuff you're not allowed to do in cartoons.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know how you look for it, but if you look around long enough, you'll find it. It's just, but basically since what was that, 1969, parent groups kind of forced the superhero cartoons off the air for a little while, the serious ones. So slowly but surely, with Super Friends, and they couldn't call it Super Friends, they called it, they couldn't call it the Justice League because that sounded too violent. So they called it the Super Friends. Slowly but surely, they kind of figured out, okay, what can we get away with on Saturday mornings? And that's how you get the Spider Friends, where even in 1981, you had to put a cartoon dog in it just to get over and, just to be able to survive on Saturday morning.
It's almost like the Comics Code Authority opened a branch for television adaptations.
Exactly.
Sounds like it, yeah.
So the funny thing is, all these superheroes start getting picked off by a villain that you might have heard of called the Chameleon. Once he gets one of them trapped, he impersonates them and uses that likeness to trap another character. And the funny part is, and even as a kid I thought this was dumb, they trap Namor by filling a pool with alcohol instead of water, and he thinks he's going to regain his strength by walking into an entire Olympic-sized pool and not being able to smell that it's
I was going to say, you would think he would be able to smell it, but you know what? Maybe he has a smell like a dolphin, which don't have a sense of smell at all.
That is hilariously dumb.
Even as a kid, I was like, come on, man. What are we doing here?
Now, if they carried that through to its logical conclusion, it would have been funny to see a drunk Namor at the end.
Well, it was like rubbing alcohol.
Oh.
And I just remember thinking, wow, when my mother opens a small bottle of this and I'm feet away from it and I can smell it.
You smell it, yeah.
Right, a whole pool of that, like...
Yeah, he's in an Olympic-sized pool. And he's like, and also is great because you didn't really see too many a-hole characters in these superhero cartoons, but they knew Namor had to be a jerk. because in the comics, a lot of times he's a jerk,
Yeah.
and he just get everybody else is cool. Captain America's like, it's like, hey gentlemen, and Doctor Strange greets everybody, and he's just fussing at everybody, and everybody. You just kind of hope something happens to Namor at that point.
Yeah, it sounds about, from what I know of Namor, it's kind of in tune.
Imperious Rex.
Even when they find out that it's a trap, the chameleon puts a force field up, and Namor's like, I'm not going to stand for this, and he walks out and he tries to fly away and just runs right into the force field and just bonk, drops to the ground like a rock. And even as a kid, I'm like, you had that coming, you pointy-eared jerk. But it's funny, slowly but surely they all get picked off, and the person who ends up saving the day is Ms. Lion, because hey, you got to show off that cartoon dog.
Oh boy.
Jeez.
So
that sounds dumb.
Poochie the dog.
But the funny part is, all through the rest of it, there's cool stuff happening. There's cool comic book stuff happening. People evading traps. Captain America doing flips, and while he's flipping, he's blocking stuff with his shield. Nice. But then, like I said, but Ms. Lion does save the day because she can smell the chameleon scent. Because she knows who Spider-Man is. She knows who Iceman and Firestar, so she can identify them.
That makes sense for as kind of kiddie as that sounds.
Yeah, fair.
What it shows, it shows the balance of how things were at that point of 1981. Because you had this side where we know what superheroes are, we know what the fans want to see. So here's this, but then you have the cartoon side saying, okay, well, we're going to have this cartoon dog be effective somehow. And we've got to have cutesy moments like this. And like I said, the medium was fighting its way. It took work to get to what we got with Batman the Animated Series in 1991.
Yeah.
That you couldn't just immediately go from, okay, all superheroes are banned, to, okay, we're going to do like almost a noir feel for a superhero cartoon and put it on television. You can't just go there. So all the stuff we're talking about with these action cartoons, you had to get there. One other thing I want to point out is this is where a lot of people first saw the X-Men. Because in 1981, there was no X-Men merch in stores or anything. In 1981, you had the big three for merchandise for Marvel: Spider-Man, Hulk, Captain America, in that order. That was basically if you found like a sticker set, or remember when they used to make the utility belts for everybody? Mm-hmm. You could order in the comics. It was always Spider-Man, Hulk with utility belt. Don't ask.
Yeah, exactly.
Merchandise. And Captain America. And for DC Comics, it was always Superman, Batman, and then you include Robin in that. That's like a, package deal. And Wonder Woman, that was the big three. And that's how the merchandise was. The comic fans on the show were pushing to put the X-Men more because the Chris Claremont run was going on. It had it was getting a strong head of steam then. Mm-hmm. So you had, not only was Iceman an X-Men, but Firestar was part of the group, and they show that in their origin story. So whenever they show their origin stories, you get little glimpses of the X-Men. So for Iceman, you've got a training sequence in the original Danger Room with the original 5 X-Men. And this time all their costumes are right, unlike the 90s version.
Oh, nice.
And and here's the other thing. This origin is part of a 3-episode season where all the episodes were animated by Toei Doga.
Yeah.
And the reason why that happened was the comic book fiends. There were also anime fiends. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Will Munoz. He did Exo Squad, a bunch of other stuff.
Wow.
He was on the team, and he was one of those guys pushing for this stuff. So they said, hey, let's just take one season, have Toei animated, and it's just 3 episodes, but we'll put all that budget in these 3 really good looking episodes.
Hmm.
Because this was days when you had to have reruns going on.
Yeah.
So when you see them, they look better. Actually, they look better than most of the other stuff that was on Saturday morning just easily. So you got this really nicely animated sequence in the danger room on that one. You got uh you the episode Along Came a Spider, or it was either that or Along Came a Spidey. And that has his origin, and there's some really moody shots in that. And I'm just looking at it like, man, this is kind of moody for Saturday morning. Because you remember how a lot of, well, you might not remember, but you've seen what stuff looked like in 1981.
No, I remember it.
You didn't have like nighttime scenes when characters were in shadow and they had that two-tone effect with the you got where the light hits the characters, then you got the shadow, like on Jay's avatar there.
Yeah, you didn't really see a lot of that kind of thing.
It was like a lot of complex lighting and shading and effects going on. And in the third one, it was Firestar's origin. That had you had the origin half of the story that was kind of mixed in, but the whole arc around it, the Juggernaut's walking around, and he's gonna attack the X-Men's mansion. And we see the X-Men, it's the first time Wolverine ever gets animated.
Huh.
But it's Saturday morning, so he can't go around cutting people.
Oh, of course not.
But the team they show then, it's Wolverine, Storm, Angel, Cyclops, and of course Professor X is there. And by the way, this is written by Christy Marks, who also helped write a lot of Gem. And this is a great origin story for Firestar, because what you find out was she had a bully who was possibly the most frightening villain in the entire series, named Bonnie. Because since they were kids, all she would ever do was mess with her for being poor. This is on a Saturday morning cartoon in 1981.
Oh my god, that's odious.
So that's the kind of writing they were coming with at that year with this new company. And even in college, where she finds out about her powers and stuff. So if you watch the episode, you'll see how it gets resolved. But it kind of goes into this whole thing of that drives her into running into the X-Men. And once again, anytime they run to the X-Men, they show sequences of them fighting the different villains, like Magneto. They fought there's a clip of them fighting a giant Sentinel in a city. And you could tell they were really trying to get the X-Men, like the cartoon half was trying to get Video Man to happen. The comic half was trying to get the X-Men to happen, because they also show up in season 3, where the people who weren't in the other one, except for Cyclops, he's in this. They have Nightcrawler, Kitty Pryde, and Colossus. And Thunderbird is in it, even though he's dead in the comics.
Wow.
But they said, hey, that's the comics. We're going to have him alive in this. So at this point, the X-Men have just been all over this show in bits and pieces. And even at the end of that one with the kid who turns into Video Man, at the end of the episode, they send him, because he messes up through the episode, but then he gets better. And they said, well, we're going to send you to a place where you'll get help with your powers. And they send him to the School of Exceptional Gifted Youngsters, where the X-Men are standing in the doorway, and all the characters that you've seen through all the X-Men characters who popped up through the entire season are standing in the doorway. And it's like, okay, we're trying to set this up as a series. But it doesn't happen.
Not till the 90s.
Not then.
Yeah. So
that shows kind of the start of Marvel Productions cartoon thing, and that kind of carries over into some of the other shows that we're going to talk about, since I'm done talking about this one.
Yeah. So, anyone else have anything they want to add about Spider-Man and his amazing friends?
You
Yes,
really add on
actually.
after that.
Well, I did
Remember,
want to say
The
something.
Swarm was discussed.
Oh, that's
Okay, but I want to bring that up
What?
again for a very important reason. Prime
Uh,
mentioned the connections to the X-Men, and the Swarm actually has shades of the Brood, which would have appeared around that exact time. And I'm wondering if that was in fact what the intent was.
That's a good question because there's a swarm. There's a version of Swarm in the comics, but he's completely different.
He's
That
a Nazi, isn't he?
Yeah, from what I read, because I've never read anything with him in it. I just heard about it. I only knew about him because of the cartoon. Then later on, they're like, "Oh, he was a villain," and then you see him, and I'm like, "Really?" He's got like a cape. It's funny. The cartoon version of Swarm is more frightening than the comic version, easily.
wow.
damn.
Because the comic version is a guy who's made out of bees, but he's got like a cape and
Mm-hmm.
boots and gloves and stuff. But the Swarm in the cartoon is an alien, and it just it it's not really a funny character at all.
Hmm.
And so it's kind of weird that you had the cartoon that had to do all this goofy stuff, and yet they just ended up making the most frightening version of a comic character. But
Nice.
you're right, that is really Brood like. It's almost like one of the better ways to get to Brood on TV, because you can't do what they normally do on regular television.
Yeah, no, you could not.
I always said the Brood were basically Marvel's version of the aliens.
Yeah,
Oh, definitely.
So,
it's real obvious when you see it going on.
mm-hmm. So, how about you, Jay? Anything to add?
I talk about Video Man,
Video Man.
talk about more, a few other things. So I just remember watching that. I was like 4 years old when I watched it, but
Yeah.
I remember that show a little bit just because of the whenever Video Man would bring out these other video game characters. That was a very weird episode. That was the most memorable episode for me. I can't say much more beyond that. You hit a lot of the notes away,
Yeah.
right? So
How about you, Mike?
Sorry if I rambled.
no, it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good.
No, it was very informative.
Mm-hmm. Mike?
Yes. I have liked what I've seen, stupidity notwithstanding. Actually, I would even go so far as to admit that some of the Silver Age stupidity is part of the reason why I found it as interesting as I did. Like, just looking at this rather transitional time for Marvel adaptations outside of the comics, it was just interesting to see how this worked and how it was attempting to be more of a catch-all Marvel show outside of just Spidey. I've only seen the first 5 episodes, but for the most part, some pretty interesting stuff. Although the Sunfire episode touched on a few WoW Asia tropes. I don't know how better to put it. That were
Yeah.
like I was saying with Inspector Gadget. Just it wasn't as bad, I'd say, as some of the things Inspector Gadget. There's a little bit of insensitivity there, here and there.
Yeah,
But
they had and I can't remember what Sunfire's relative is, and I think it's his uncle. I think they had Mako do his voice.
holy shit, Mako Uematsu? Holy fuck. I have to look this up now.
I think you might be right. It does sound like a younger version of him.
Huh. Actually, that doesn't appear to be Mako. That was K. Luke,
That's
Mr.
right.
Wing from the Gremlins
Damn,
film.
how did I get those two mixed up? I just remembered it was a legend.
Oh, hey,
Because-
no worries. They're
because he
both
was-
legends.
He was I can't remember which cartoon they had him on. Does anybody remember there was a detective show called The Amazing Chan Clan?
Yeah,
Yes,
that was
I used to
K.
watch
Luke.
that a lot
was-
on reruns.
Yes,
I
that was Luke,
can't.
yes.
I'm trying to remember if Key Luke did his voice in Charlie Chan's voice in that, which is weird because I think he play the number one son in the movies.
Huh.
You might be right about that.
I'm not sure.
I just basically knew K. Luke from Gremlins.
That's where I knew him from first.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm looking now. So he was Charlie Chan in that.
Nice.
Yeah, as far
But yeah,
as
they at least they didn't have somebody doing a really bad accent in any of that
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah, that is fair. At least they actually had Asian actors as well. At least as his uncle. Sunfire was okay. It doesn't seem like Sunfire's actor was Asian, so shit. But oh well.
Okay,
but at least
go ahead. Sorry, you go first.
Oh, I said at least they didn't have him doing the bad accent. The one thing I'm gonna dock them for is when certain moments they have a gong play. That
was the part that was getting to me in Stars.
That's the part where I'm like, okay, you come on.
Yeah. Jesus.
I was going to ask about Sunfire, actually. Is he actually from the comics? And did he have a rivalry with Iceman? Because that was a big part of that episode I thought was fascinating.
He first showed up as an enemy of the X-Men, but then they left on okay terms. Sunfire in the comics is completely different. He's almost as much of a jerk as Namor is.
Oh, okay.
Which that's the other thing. At least they made Sunfire a nice guy, but he was in that first group when the original X-Men get captured, and Professor X, except for Cyclops, and Professor X builds the new group with Colossus and Wolverine and Storm. Sunfire is one of the people he recruits for that team, and Sunfire immediately quits in the next issue.
Oh,
because comic Sunfire was a jerk.
Yeah.
A shame.
Yeah.
But that, like I said, they were really pushing for the X-Men to be in it.
Well,
yeah.
I'll just say that I did used to watch the show a lot when I was a kid, but again, haven't seen it since then. So, but I do remember one thing did stand out is seeing Iceman on the show, and then later actually reading X-Men and go, whoa, that was that Ice guy from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Yeah, I mean that funny enough, for a long time he was the most popular and well-known X-Men because of that cartoon.
Makes sense.
Yeah, to signify my 90s-ness, I first learned about Iceman from Capcom's 90s fighting games based on Marvel, which then became the Marvel vs. Capcom series, but
at least it wasn't the NES game.
I'm so glad I avoided that piece of shit.
Yeah, Iceman's in that too, and I kind of chalked that up to him being on the show and people saying, okay, well, people still know who he is. They were still running that in syndication and in the Marvel Action Universe syndicated show back when that game was made. So
that makes sense.
After what they did to poor Storm in that game.
I kind of like Mohawk Storm, though. I'm not gonna lie. That's an awesome look for her. But yeah.
So we're 2 hours in now, guys. So I think we're going to try and speed things up a little bit going through the rest of this.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that said, I'm the only one that hasn't talked about a show yet. So I'm going to kick things off with Robotech.
Yeah.
Now, this was a show that I was not expecting the kind of storytelling depth that it had. You know, sure, they had goofy moments, and there were some characters who were borderline unlikable, Minmay, and but you know, it's true though. Even my father couldn't stand her. But it was unlike anything I had ever seen. You know, it's just this whole thing with having to fight these giant aliens. And the way they did that was to go ahead and create transforming jets that basically the robots were the size of the aliens in Zentradi. And, of course, all the stuff like the little character bits and things that happened. Like when, of course, Rick Hunter and how he was caught in that love triangle with Min-May and Lisa Hayes, right? Later, Lisa Hunter. And, of course, there was Max and the Zentradi, who was micronized to go find him and kill him, and and they end up falling in love and getting married. That was Miria, right?
Oh, there you
I obviously haven't gotten this far yet.
Yep. And
go. Oh, spoilers, sorry.
yeah, sorry,
it's
Mike.
okay,
Foil what you want. I mean, the show's 40 years old by now. So.
Yeah.
most of my Robotech knowledge is the novels anyway, so
Well,
Oh,
I'll tell you, the one that got me, though, was the fact they actually killed off a main character and he stayed dead.
yep.
Roy.
I was going to say,
Roy Fokker.
does Roy die? Because he seems like the mentor figure who's doomed to die at some point, and that becomes like a real motivation for Rick to just like grow up.
Well, he was
Kinda like-
he was basically Rick's mentor. You know, Rick always called him Big Brother.
Yeah.
If I
It's
remember,
just that at that time, we wouldn't know that was going to happen because we were kids at this point. We didn't know. We hadn't seen anything like that yet.
that was a total
Yeah.
shock. It's like I don't remember the specifics. Didn't he take some fire from his Zentradi and it wounded him, and he didn't think it was serious? And he went to his girlfriend's place, Claudia, and she's making dessert, and he just keels over on the couch.
Damn. That's a subtle. Damn. Fuck.
Yeah. Oh, and
It's a
if
long
I remember correctly, at the end of the series, they basically kill the entire bridge crew of the SDF-1, which is
Jesus.
the whole
what the fuck?
That's the whole reason this series started. In 1999, this alien spaceship crashes into Macross Island, and at the time, the whole world was at war, and it's been said the only thing that could unite mankind was a threat from space. And in that case, that's exactly what it was. So they rebuilt the thing as the SDF-1, ended up constructing a whole island city around it, basically. And then some crazy stuff happens with the space fold system inside after the Zentradi show up, and it's honestly way too much to go into. But it is, it's such serialized storytelling.
That sounds like a bittersweet ending, heavily verging on the bitter. Holy shit.
Yeah, Captain Global, Claudia, the entire bridge crew, the SDF-1. And if I remember correctly, they're all wiped out by a suicide attack.
That is some like Hideaki Anno ass depression, fuck everyone sort of ending there. That's wow. I didn't know it got that much of a downer. Jesus.
On top of that, the love triangle was finally resolved in the last couple episodes.
Oh well, fan fucking tastic.
Yeah. And I distinctly remember when Max and Maria fell in love and had their baby, Dana, that they totally freaked out the Zentradi because they'd never seen a baby before.
Yep. Protoculture.
Oh yes, protoculture. That they ended up making that play into the later series, which involved the Invid and all that.
Yeah, well, they kind of mixed up 3 different shows to make Robotech, so.
Yeah, was there Macross, Mos Pieta, and what was the third one?
Southern Cross, I think.
Yes,
Wait, was that Mos?
Yeah.
Mos Pieta is the third one, which had Scott Bernard
Yeah,
and Rand.
So they tied it all together to make Robotech. So you had the Macross saga, the Robotech Masters, and the New Generation. And along the way, they tried to create another series to bridge the Macross saga and everything else, which didn't get past the first 3 episodes. It was released as one big thing as Robotech 2, The Sentinels.
So, yeah, the Sentinels.
But yeah, I guess the reason is they ran out of money or something happened with the value of the dollar
Yeah, I
versus
heard that
the
was
value of the yen.
Yeah, it was an infamous fiasco, from what I understand.
Yeah. I do quite like the Sentinels, though. So, what little of it exists. So, but yeah, this was a show that I watched it, my brother watched it, my father watched this show. It's like if he had time before work, he would sit down and watch it with us. It usually aired around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And so if I was actually home in time to catch it, then turn it on, and and oh yeah, he had some very strong thoughts about Min-May. But it's a show he still remembers to this day. My father's going to be 90 next year.
Wow.
So, but so it basically had all of us. I mean, my mother didn't care about the show, and neither did my sister. But if she's still listening, she can confirm that. She never watched Robotech, didn't care to watch Robotech. So, but it was a show that I still like. I can still go back and watch. So, all right. We're going to go ahead and just take a quick trip around here. I'll start with Jay as the probably biggest Robotech fan here.
Yes. Just like you, as soon as I got to watching the show, I was hooked from day one. That whole serialized style versus the episodic stuff that we were so used to with most of the other cartoons.
Yeah.
Following Rick Hunter's adventures to become the great pilot that he ends up becoming. Min-May, that he first likes. Yes, I know Min-May is that likable, but he meets up with Lisa Hayes and some characters. And what really cemented the story was the death of Boyd Bolger.
Yeah.
Him, Rick Hunter, Lisa Hayes, Max, and I forget the fourth guy, his fourth team, his other teammate, the big dude. I forget his name.
Yeah, me too. I forget it, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so they were captured by the Zentradi, and they were trying to figure them out, trying to figure out what is love and all this other stuff, and they talked about protoculture, and it's just like each episode was a continuation of the last, for the most part. There were very few filler episodes, considering it was 3 different shows that I had no idea at the time. It was just so well done, but it's dark and grim at times, especially when you're that young. Like I was watching this 8 or 9 years old. I was so used to watching Transformers, which is kind of violent in its own right, but this show just knocks your head off with its grim story, but compelling characters. A lot of it is like Captain Global, when he's trying to figure out what is their next move, and he will spout out, this is the funniest thing at the same time, the name of the episode in each episode. Like, first, one of the episodes called Blitzkrieg, and it's like, we got to do Blitzkrieg, and I'm like, oh my god. He does this in every episode, but amazing captain. He had a great crew. It's just too bad what happens, but you know, it's just an amazing show. The music was fantastic. It was not like your typical cartoon player. It was anime style, henceforth it was anime that we just didn't realize at the time. But oh my god, it's just, I would watch Robotech over and over again. Just that's how good it is. So I ended up buying the entire series. I have all 85 episodes, along with some of the movies that are actually tied into it, such as the Snarboo. I think they kind of made it into a movie style.
Yeah, they basically took the first three episodes and fused them together into a movie.
Yeah. Then there was Robotech. Can't think of the name, but it's like Love Live or Live Live, or I forget the exact. What?
I remember Macross. Do you remember Love?
Yes, there was that, but they did do a couple different tie-ins later on with the show. And this one, it would have been Love Live Alive, and then they had the Shadow Chronicles. So the Shadow Chronicles actually bridged with Scott Bernard, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So like these are like newer films too. So it was interesting that the even though it was 3 different series, they kind of still followed it later on somehow with a couple of movies. So it was pretty neat too. Highly recommend the show if you haven't watched it all yet. I know we had a lot of spoilers today, but it's still really good. It's just I can't express how good this show was. I watched it religiously. It was one of those cartoons I just couldn't get enough of as a kid.
Spoilers, deal with it.
Kept wanting to know. Yeah.
Yeah, the series is almost it is actually 40 years old at this point. So
Yeah.
Surprisingly,
came out,
I
85, 86, so.
Yeah.
As Robotech. The shows themselves came out earlier
Yeah.
in Japan.
So, Mike, you had something you wanted to say?
Now, surprisingly, I have known extremely little about Macross and Robotech up to now, so I didn't know about that Kill 'Em All ending, and I feel slightly peeved that was totally blown for me now, I'll be honest. But
Deal with it.
looking into it, it seems like in the original Japanese version, the bridge crew actually did survive the final battle, so I take it that the Western adaptation took some liberties with how the flow of the story went. I mean, like, apparently, like, the balancing act that, like, Karl Masek, I believe his name was, did some, really a lot of work trying to, like, make it sort of its own thing, despite the fact that it is also heavily based off of a... I don't know. It's just really interesting to see how, like, that was treated and how other, I believe, Tatsunoko productions, like, quote-unquote, Battle of the Planets was treated for the time, I'm sure, but... At any rate, I had not seen any Robotech before I went on some research with Snarb to try and catch up on some of these shows, and just seeing the first episode alone, I realized then and there why a lot of people got into anime in the West. It was just kind of oh wow, this is really high quality. This wastes no time getting to what the people want to see. Unlike some other shows and Western adaptations that we may or not be talking about tonight. But I have really liked what I have seen so far. It just, for the most part, it does have some just really well-flowing pacing, and I don't know if it makes things snappier than the Japanese original Macross or not, but it's just been really entertaining so far. It's just like, wow, this is where the Macross missile massacre comes from. That's a lot of missiles. Holy shit, a lot of things are exploding. This is what fucking war feels like. It knows what it's doing.
Yeah. So, sorry about the spoilers there, Mike, but, you know, half of the good thing about Robotech is actually watching how it all progresses.
I mean, that is my case for spoilers also. Like, sometimes I actively look them up, and like we said, the show's about 40 years old by now, so it is relatively fair game, and considering how dark anime can get, I'm not totally surprised, but the irony that in the original Japanese version, it apparently was relatively lighter-hearted, or at least the bridge crew doesn't totally get wiped out, that's really interesting to me, that the West made it actually even darker somehow.
I guess it's because they're mixing up the other two shows to fill out the 65 episode plus run.
That's a good
Because
point,
otherwise,
yeah.
Otherwise, the first series is like 30 episodes only. So.
Yeah, you know what, that's fair. I take it that Southern Cross and Mospeda aren't as well known as Macross, I take it. So,
I don't think so.
I mean, well, I am definitely interested in seeing more, whatever the case. I can understand some of the vitriol against Mid-May kind of treating everything with, like, not enough gravity, you could argue. But, I don't have anything against her. I haven't gotten to them yet, but there's a character who shows up later in the series by the name of Typhoon, who apparently fucking sucks and everyone hates him and he's an asshole. I haven't gotten to Typhoon yet, but actually eager to see if he really is as bad as I'm hearing the audience thinks of him. So,
All right, Mo, have a good night.
Yeah. Oh, hey, see you later, Mo.
Later,
Thank
Mo.
you so much for stopping in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have really liked what I've seen so far. I would like to get on it. This year I have been a lot more generous to anime after several years of just not like getting into it. And hey, I haven't explored enough 80s anime. This would be a really good link to get into it. So, but yeah, it's been really cool so far, and I can see why it has as many fans as it does. Like before that, like my only other exposure to Macross was the really awesome Super Famicom shoot 'em up Scrambled Valkyrie, which I have no idea how much basis there is in the original series, but that's a fucking good game.
It's pretty accurate, as I recall.
Even the giant green alien thing at the end.
I need to see it again.
Gotcha.
So, let's give someone else a chance to talk, shall we?
Yes, let's.
How about you, Prime?
I agree with the fact that when this hit TV, it was just, you could just immediately feel the difference in everything about it.
Yeah.
Everything that everyone's listed here, just not just from the way it looked and the storytelling, like even the music had a different feel to it. And if you were a kid that was all, well, I was a little bit older, but like if you were also watching just regular entertainment, it felt closer to that than to what we were usually watching on afternoon TV. So once the wave of anime started going around later in the 80s, and the first thing that my mind flashed back to was Robotech. Even though I saw stuff like Speed, when I was a kid, I saw Speed Racer and Battle of the Planets. I still went to this first because that's the stuff that we wanted to see more of.
You know, it's funny, actually. For the longest time after that, whenever I saw, artwork of like anime type artwork or manga type artwork, I always, for a while, called it, oh yeah, I used that Robotech art.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, they stole some of the mechs from Robotech, or rather Macross, for the BattleTech board game.
Well,
I remember that.
That I didn't know. Speaking of stealing something else, they did use a Veritech as Jetfire on Transformers, but not the TV show. It was only the toy. So that, yeah. But when we get to Transformers, we'll talk more about that. Anything else either you or Snarb want to add, Prime?
I'm done.
Snarb?
I'll try to keep this as brief as I can. This show is basically one of those 80s hand-me-downs, but more specifically because, as I understand it, there are rights issues involved with it because, it's 3 different anime series, 2 of which were by Tatsunoko. Like, I think Southern Cross and Macross, like, Macross was the first part of the Super Dimensional Fortress series. I think Southern Cross was either the second or third, and I forget how Maspeda fits in there. I don't think it's actually related to the Super Dimension Fortress series, despite having, transforming vehicles. But in any case, there was a period of time where it was hard, at least in my town, to find anything about it. I remember catch a glimpse of it in magazines, like maybe a model kit, or, not magazines, old comic books, because I had a lot of hand-me-down 80s comic books too. And you'd occasionally see like ads for model kits. And I know for a fact one of them was Roy Foker's Veritech, because it was this really badass looking jet with skull and crossbones on it. And I'm like, what is that from? And I couldn't read very well at the time, so maybe I did read Robotech. Maybe I could actually read the name of it, but I was like, what is this Robotech thing? And, you couldn't really find it on VHS tapes. I think my dad managed to track down one once, and it went over my head because I was maybe 5 or 6 at the time. I was really wanted to see it, but it's kind of, it's a little bit more sophisticated than a 5 or 6-year-old can digest. So,
Yeah.
I wasn't able really to get it, and it's a shame because my dad is actually into anime, or was. He was definitely one of those people who glommed onto that, and that would have been something animated I could have shared with him, but I digress. Most of my experience with the series, until recently being able to actually watch it, is from the novels. For a while, that was all the Robotech stuff you could find. And even then, it was kind of hard to track down, because I remember my library would have scattered copies of it. It wasn't something I could always find in bookstores until a little bit later, when anime started to pick up in the mid to late 90s. And then suddenly they're like, oh, hey, we have a gold mine here. We're just going to dump all the Robotech novels on you kids. Hey, have fun. So that was my experience with it. And I forget how far I got into it. They were the ones I had were the omnibus releases, so it was like 3 novels a piece, and each novel was maybe 1 to 3 episodes. And I know I got up to the part where they got captured, and like the Zentradi were freaking out when I think 2 of the characters started making out or something like that for some reason. I forget which characters it was specifically. And they were just like, oh my God, what is this? Yeah. Yes, that's right. It was Rick and Lisa. And they were just freaking out. And I just remember that so distinctly, cracking up. It's like, man, if this is what passes for entertainment for the Zentradi, I don't want to know what's like your hardcore stuff.
Oh, boy.
It was their Cinemax.
Right?
Whoa. All right.
God damn.
I think I got a little bit farther, but that is my Macross memory, or a Macross Robotech. Eventually, Macross came out. I saw some of the movies, like Do You Remember Love? The miniseries was at Macross Plus, I think, was the one that had the Sharon Apple character that eventually takes over one of the new Veritechs. That's a really good series, whatever the name of it is.
Plus is amazing.
Yes. Yeah, that's just kind of it. I eventually got to digest it, thanks to the anime boom in the late 90s, and I'm glad that happened, because unlike some other 80s things, it's that have been lost to time, this wasn't, fortunately. Either they figured out the rights issues, or eventually like companies are like, okay, we can just bring over our own show. So here kids, have Macross.
All right. We got 5 shows left. You think we can knock them out in the next 40 minutes to an hour?
Oh, good Lord, that's a good question. Especially since 2 of them are the biggies.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
I mean, to be fair, this one has 5 people on it. I don't mind if this goes on a bit longer myself, but, I'm sure some of you have other things you're doing on your end, so I don't know, we'll just play it by ear.
We could make a sequel to be continued tomorrow.
Oh no, yeah, like on the next episode of The Dyer's Place.
That's a thought.
Yeah, I just know I had a very long, rough day today, so I'm looking forward to sleeping.
If we want to cut it off here for now and reconvene, I'm fine with that, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that might work. Each show is probably going to take about 20 minutes. If you do the math, that's like, what, 100 minutes? And that's a lot to ask, I think, from all of the hosts.
Yeah. So, I guess then the question is, who's free tomorrow?
Well, I am still, so.
I am.
I know I am. Which leaves...
Yeah, I should be, so.
Okay, Prime. What about you,
right.
Jay?
I'm free.
Holy shit! All right, wow. Hey, a good sudden idea we had here. Actually, I didn't plan on this, but hey, yeah, I just don't want to give anything to short shrift. This has been really fun to discuss, and
yeah, and considering
we did cover quite a bit of ground. So.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, hey, Eugene.
See?
Oh
yeah,
no!
We weren't actually talking about Thundercats on this one.
Sadly, not.
Mean, we could maybe tomorrow. We could also after we talk about our big ones, we can also quickly scan over some of the other ones at the time, because I did also view 1 or 2 episodes of some of the other notable ones around the era, Thundercats included. Sorry. So I don't know. We'll see how we feel tomorrow. What we're up to.
Yeah.
One thing if we want to round out the evening with something, we could talk about some of our favorite lineups or channels, because it seemed like certain channels were better at picking their syndicated shows than others.
That's true. Actually, since
cable networks.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm the one that was interrupting, but I was just saying. I had to rethink, because I remember some of you were younger, that you saw it on cable, so you could also talk about the cable networks that introduced these shows to you.
Yeah, I was going to say, most of the shows I remember watching were either, that were reruns, were either USA, which I know had a G.I. Joe block that was presented by Sergeant Slaughter, which was great, by the way. That's a great way to handle your reruns. And Cartoon Network, which at the time was just Boomerang. And I used to only be able to get Cartoon Network on my grandparents' TV. They could afford cable. Eventually, we got that, and for a while, the broadcasts were 3 hours. Like, we got it, earlier than they did because they didn't synchronize the coast. So it'd be say, this show's coming on at 6 p.m. and it's actually 3 for us. So because Mountain Standard versus Eastern Standard, or it varied. Arizona's weird. We don't have DST.
Oh,
well, I know in my case, I always had to watch these cartoons on one of the local UHF stations where I lived. I want to say... No, wait, that was in Florida. I'll be damned if I can remember what the station was, but they showed, which I said at the top of the stream, usually around 3 o'clock, they'd start with either Robotech or Voltron, or Tranzor Z, just depending on what time of year it was and how everything aligned in the cosmos and whatnot. And after that, it was G.I. Joe at 3:30, Transformers at 4, and Thundercats at 4:30. And then after that, from 5 to 6, it was educational shows. And then at 6, inevitably, you get the McNeil Lehrer News Hour. So, but yeah, by that point, it was okay, this is boring. Although every so often they show something good educational wise. I mean, I think we changed the channel back and forth between the UHF station and PBS. So that's probably why it's all jumbled together in my mind. Because I think McNeil Lehrer was actually on PBS.
Yeah, that's what I remember it being on.
Yeah. But, every so often we'd stumble across something else between 5 and 6, like, say, The Joy of Painting with Bob Ross.
Classique.
Oh, yeah. That dude has put me to sleep on more than one occasion. And I mean that in the best way possible.
Yes. Yes.
It's like, that man, he was not boring. It's just, the way he had of talking there. Like, we're going to go and... It's your world. Go ahead and do this with it. Let's go ahead and make it. Put a happy little tree right here. Fun fact.
Didn't he actually have a squirrel perch on his shoulder occasionally?
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
He rescued animals.
Yeah.
So cute. Oh my gosh, little fellow.
And get this, he even had at one point in the early '90s an MTV bumper.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's on there. He's doing one of his paintings. At the end, they superimpose an MTV thing over it, and so you can just see the painting beneath the MTV logo. And he's like, "MTV is all about happy little trees," or something like that. Of course, I had a younger brother too, who also would watch some of the more kids-oriented shows. So, he could easily go from G.I. Joe to Sesame Street. So there was that too.
Nice.
And then no matter what we were watching, when 7 o'clock came around, my mother said, "Okay, you're done. I'm watching Love Connection." With Chuck Woolery.
We'll be back in tune 2.
Yep. And then just
so that came on at 7 o'clock everywhere. It feels like that's when it came on in our area.
So yeah, that, and if she felt like it at 7:30, she'd switch over to Wheel or Jeopardy. I'm probably mixing up my years a little bit here, but what do you expect? It's been 40 years.
Fair.
And then, of course, at 8 o'clock, there was all the family sitcoms and such we'd watch on NBC and ABC and CBS and all that. Whatever was big at the time. Family Ties, Silver Spoons, Different Strokes.
Yeah, the schedules. There were times when the schedules were just about as memorable as just the individual shows we were watching. Because there were times they just had shows just had amazing lineups going on for one night, especially NBC.
Mm-hmm.
As they, you had. I mean, they kind of had comedy on lock for a little bit.
Oh yeah, NBC's must see Thursdays.
And you got TGIF
Yeah.
as well.
I also remember too that before Love Connection started airing, going back to when we were talking about the Muppets earlier, 7 o'clock was usually the Muppet Show.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm. And that was something we watched all the time. And there were several episodes that stood out to me, like the one with Alice Cooper. And Vincent Price and Don Knotts. But
Holy shit.
my favorite, they had all that. Elton John was on there, Harry Belafonte.
Oh, yeah.
You name it. Harry Belafonte, that one that he did that when he turned the world around at the end.
Right there, that one gets me every time.
Yes. And I love those Muppets he brought up with him. I remember as a kid, I thought they were kind of spooky, but as I got older and saw it, I was like, those are actually really freaking cool. So, I think they were made up to look like African tribal masks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but the one that always stands out in my head is when I'm watching this, and Scooter pops his head in the door, and he's like, 30 seconds airtime, and he'll usually announce the guest name. And in this case, he says something about Mr. McGonagall, and it's a Muppet. And it's like, wait a minute, a Muppet? That's the special guest tonight? This is gonna suck. And all of a sudden, the wall explodes, and out come C-3PO, R2-D2, Luke Skywalker. I lost my shit. I actually started yelling, Mom, Star Wars is on the Muppet Show! I was waiting for Han Solo and Princess Leia to come through, too. Of course, they never did. Gonzo fiddles while George burns. Yes, that was... Oh, and the one they did with Paul Simon. When Gonzo tries to pitch a song to Paul Simon.
Oh, my God.
He's like... I still remember how that goes. He's like, for you, I'd wash my hair with sticky glue. I'd fry my legs and eat them too. I'd put a spider in my shoe for you. Paul Simon's just like, I will never use this guitar again unless I'm playing one of your songs. Wow, really? That's right. And he takes the guitar and smashes it against the wall.
That's adorable.
Oh, yeah, but yeah, Muppet Show was great. So,
Was that on Saturdays?
In my case, it was definitely a weekly thing for a while, or every weeknight for a while.
Okay, because I remember the last time I was able to catch the Muppet Show, it was on at 7 o'clock, but it was on. I think it was on Saturday. Yeah, it was on Saturdays. And then
Remember it on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And that was before it just kind of faded, on a local channel. That was before it just kind of faded away, and I didn't see it again for a long time.
Oh yeah, and after that was gone in my area, that's when you started seeing the game shows. So, Love Connection, Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, and all that. And
Hard Sharks.
if my
Great show.
If my grandmother was over, it was always Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah. Well, we're talking also about the same woman who loved watching the Lawrence Welk show.
Your secondhand obsession trolling me with Lawrence Welk for some reason. That's where it comes from.
Because it's funny.
Yeah, why not?
I'll say one thing about my grandmother. She was never the nicest person in the world, She had her moments, don't get me wrong, but she was just like a perpetually crotchety old person.
Yeah, I know
And
the type.
but what surprised me was what show she was actually a fan of. It's like she likes like the Lawrence Welk show and all these different shows aimed at people of her generation, except for one. She was a huge Pee Wee's Playhouse fan.
Nice.
Nice.
She thought Pee Wee was hilarious. She would watch him every Saturday morning.
That's
Oh,
adorable.
that's cool.
Yeah. And it's like,
Nice. They're good.
I just kind of blew my mind the first time I heard that. Yes, Sharon would remember this. She did love Highway to Heaven. Yeah, with that Michael Landon.
I think a lot of older people liked Michael Landon because he was in Bonanza.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, that would check out.
Little Joe, right?
Because my grandmother was crazy about that. My grandmother and great grandmother, they were both crazy about that show.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the thing that once I got to see the stuff I wanted to see, when you're at your grandmother's house, that's how it works. You get to see a little bit of kid stuff, and then you watch what they watch, and that.
Yep.
If that was playing on anywhere on TV, that was what we were watching.
And I remember another show. I know my parents used to watch this all the time. I think Sharon probably correct me on this one if I'm wrong, but that tracks. But I remember my parents were huge fans of the Waltons. It's like they weren't really into Little House on the Prairie, but they loved the Waltons. And my grandmother may have too. I don't recall. But yeah.
Got the whole Goodnight John Boy going to McLeod thing from
Yes.
MST3K in my head. Goodnight, McLeod.
Good night, Mitchell. Ma did like Little House. Okay. I stand corrected. But when it became sitcom mania in the 80s, that's primarily all we watched. Of course, around 9-10 o'clock, whenever the late night soaps would come on, your Dallases and Dynasties and Falcon Crests and all those. Of course, I'd watch all that stuff. But the sitcoms were definitely huge in our house at that point in time. And I remember there were some shows they didn't watch that were like action oriented. Stuff like Hunter, Simon and Simon, stuff like that. I ended up just kind of discovering that stuff myself later on. In fact, I was a huge Hunter fan for a while.
That was a great show.
Yeah, works for me.
I have to ask, they have any opinions on Star Trek at all?
No.
Damn. All right, well, that's dead end.
Now, my father does actually.
Oh, cool.
Because at one point in the mid-90s, he started watching Deep Space Nine.
Holy shit, really?
Mm-hmm. Although today he barely remembers it. He hadn't seen it in so long.
That's understandable.
But no, they would never turn on the original series or Next Generation or anything like that. And yes, how can we forget the Tracy Ullman show?
Yep.
But there was there's one thing I was thinking of here before Mike mentioned Star Trek. Obviously, as we got older, we had a little more say over what we got to watch. Plus, we were allowed to watch stuff like Knight Rider and even the A-Team from time to time.
Cool.
But the show that I remember desperately wanting to see, at that point my parents were like, yeah, sure, just go ahead and watch it. Quantum Leap.
Excellent.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's one they're gonna get on.
Loved Quantum Leap.
So good.
So, we strayed very far from cartoons here, but so
There's another question I was going to ask because it's kind of cartoon adjacent.
All right.
How do any of you have any favorite independent stations? Because it seemed like the independent stations, they either ran more cartoons on it or somehow they just picked the best cartoons. Because that when I the channel that I watched GI Joe and Transformers on through the weekdays, that was channel 43. They were independent until sometime in the 90s when all the independent stations started dying off. So if you've got any independent station, like I've got that, it was WUAB 43 Cleveland. And then there's another one, WOIO. And that station showed, they would just pull weird stuff out of nowhere. They were showing Gumby, including the 80s Gumby.
Wow.
They played the Grand Trey Lawrence Marvel shows that weren't Spider-Man. They played like Cap, Thor, Iron Man, Namor, and Hulk.
Nice.
They were playing those in the 80s. And they would just, when you had independent stations on, you would just catch stuff you just wouldn't see coming anywhere. So did anybody have a station like that where they had any magic going on?
Well, this isn't really a magic kind of thing, but I remember, and this is actually a little later in the 80s. We moved to Florida in 89. There was a station called Channel 35. I don't remember their call letters, but they're the ones that we used to watch, like DuckTales and Rescue Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on. And I don't know if they fell asleep at the wheel when it came to the Turtles, but I swear to God, every time I turned that show on, they were showing Corporate Raiders from Dimension X. I was even home.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it was Fox. Yeah, but it was. They were still an independent affiliate. But I was home sick one day. It's like, well, I watch some TV. Oh, hey, Teenage Mutant. What do you want to bet? It's Corporate Raiders from Dimension X. It was Corporate Raiders from Dimension X.
Maybe someone who was at the station was deliberately trying to troll its viewers at that point. I don't know.
I don't know.
Or the weird.
Hang on, Eugene mentioned this this episode of Quantum Leap that never happened. I remember reading they were going to do that. Yeah, it's too bad. That would have been very interesting to see Sam as a cartoon.
Yeah, that would have been good.
All right, Prime, you were saying?
Oh, I was going to say, the weird thing that I found out about syndicated shows later on, and of course it makes sense because they didn't have a more sophisticated system than this. They didn't have, until they switched to some kind of satellite system that I haven't read enough about yet. They used to send tapes to the stations. So part of that whole thing about not wanting to do serialized shows was because if you sent a station multiple tapes, they might show them out of order. Because that's that thing I brought this up elsewhere. I saw a Transformers episode where Skyfire was alive. Like, he was just alive when the whole thing of his episode wasn't like he died at the end of it. But then I just saw an episode with him flying around like normal, like nothing had happened. And then after that, I saw the episode where they get him out. So that could have been the station itself just playing that tape over and over again instead of what everybody else was doing.
That wouldn't surprise me one bit. Just to this day, I loathe that episode. Oh boy. But I think I've yacked enough for the time being. Jay, what about you? Any like stations you recall, independent ones or whatnot?
Not that I can totally remember, but like I don't have the same stations, I guess, from what you guys have. Canada. I cannot think of it. Like, we had white TV and stuff like that. But shows like from the channels from the 80s, I'm going to tell you what they were, to be honest with you. Maybe Global TV or GTV or something, but YTV would have been the big one for us here. It's a Canadian-based one, but it would show a lot of different kind of cartoons, and that's actually how I came across Beast Wars, which is a show that was spawned from Transformers, which I didn't know it was actually connected until halfway through that show. Yeah, I don't know. That's the one. You can't do that on television. Oh my god, you see. Yeah, I remember that one.
I do too, kind of.
I
Yeah,
have
Yeah, Nickelodeon used to show it.
very little memory of that show.
That was one of my
It was a
favorites when I
Mania
was a
show,
kid.
actually. Yeah. Or if you say I don't know, you get slimed, and there was something if you say, and then they will drop water or something. I don't remember that part, but yeah, that was a very weird skit show. Everything. It was fun.
I will say that the Canadian TV series that I probably say I know the most, out of the ones I can think that were exclusively Canadian, the Red Green Show.
Oh yes.
That show was good.
The man's prayer.
I'm a man. I can change if I have to.
I have to.
I guess.
I guess.
Used to watch that all the time.
He
When I
fix
was,
everything with duct tape.
yes. Used to watch that all the time when I was living in Arizona. Oh,
Oh, that was a great show.
yeah. Yeah, what about you, Snarb? So I know you mentioned some of the cable stuff that you mentioned, like, Cartoon Network and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I was past the age where independent channels existed, and I have no clue what that scene was like in Arizona, or in Germany for that matter, which is where I was born. I have very vague recollections of that and seeing shows that we didn't get here. I think I have vague recollections of some of my dad was in the military. That's how I ended up there. I have vague recollections of a show that I was looking up information on, and that might explain why I'm familiar with it. Apparently, there was this Hanna-Barbera series. I can't remember the name, but it was kind of like Care Bears or Gummy Bears. I forget the exact name. That was mostly aired on military service channels, and I just have this vague recollection of it. It's like, what the heck are these things? It's like I would see them sometimes. It's like, what the heck is this? And then years later, I would find out, oh, well, that probably explains it. It probably aired on some military channel when my dad was stationed in Germany. In terms of stuff in the 90s, again, it would have been past that point. Most of my experiences would be cable, either at my grandparents' place or, at my house in Arizona. And the thing I always thought was fascinating was that you would sometimes get shows on one coast you never got on the other coast. That was something that was amazing about us getting Cartoon Network, is finally we would get the same shows. Sci-Fi Channel was like that as well. Sci-Fi Channel used to run a cartoon block for a while that had a bunch of interesting shows. Bionic 6, which, good luck finding any of that. I'm sure maybe there's a pirate broadcast from Saudi Arabia in the middle of the 90s that's really ultra high quality, but we're never getting it. All the episodes I could find were horrendous quality. We're talking you basically the dog chewed on the VHS tape quality levels here.
That's terrible.
Much.
But
every Bionic 6 bootleg I've seen has the sci-fi logo on the corner.
Yes, exactly. That must have been when most people caught it and recorded it. So the ones I found were the same. They had the Sci-Fi Channel logo. What else did they show? They showed droids. That's how I found out that show existed. I was like, oh, C-3PO and R2-D2 had their own show. That's pretty cool. I don't remember that one too well. I think they also showed, which one was it that I remember the most? The new Gigantor, the 80s Gigantor. That is a really good show. I wish I could say more about it, but most of my experiences are just getting different shows on different coasts. Getting different channels. Like, for example, in Arizona, you didn't get the Bible channel, which had Bible Man on it. I think I only caught a single episode of that because I was like, what the hell is this? It was just, I was like, my family was mildly religious or is mildly religious, but not to that degree, that we needed our own Bible channel. So that was interesting, sometimes catching weird stuff like that. Yeah, most of my experiences are on cable, or someone that was babysitting me might be paid for the Disney Channel or something like that, or it would be cartoon or not, cartoons that came on shows like Fox. I think Fox was the big channel I watched. I remember seeing the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes cartoon, watching that religiously for whatever reason.
I remember that.
I love that show. Oh, you hated that, or?
I saw a couple episodes, and it was very 90s and it didn't really stick with me. So
Which show are we talking about? Sorry,
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Oh yeah, that one also had a video game based on the show, based on the movie. It was
Right.
I think it wasn't. I think it was by Imagineering. So, oh geez.
Ooh. But there was, that was the weird thing about the early 90s, like I consider like up to maybe like halfway through 1990, maybe pushing it up to 1991 as early 80s. So you'd sometimes get these weird sort of crossover things. You'd get things that were seemed more appropriate for that era, and they only lasted a season or two. Like you had the Toxic Crusader show, which is like, it was based on a bunch of like really exploitative horror films from I think the 70s and 80s.
Yeah,
and
Trauma and the
and
Toxic
that got a
Avenger.
video game too.
Yes, yeah, Trauma.
Strictly not for kids.
Yeah.
Which is it's funny, they were fully on board with that. Like someone approached them, or they were asking Trauma if they could make a cartoon or something. They're like, heck yeah, we're on board with this. And that had a pretty good toy line by Playmates. It was a very good companion to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles if you needed to round out your cast for whatever reason. What else did Fox have? Bobby's World. There's a bunch of other stuff that, again, very early 90s, that there was some crossover there, some similar energy, but you could also tell there was starting to be a sea change, because I do remember some shows from, the mid to late 80s, because they were aired in reruns. I caught them live, or they were just, what was available on whatever channels we had access to. And then, forget where I was going with this channel, just that there was an interesting transition there, but how you could still get a lot of 80s stuff, and I appreciate that. I think I mentioned this, years ago when you and I, Rob, and Mike did a stream about rentals.
Yes.
Like just the rental culture, and how you could just find the most fascinating shows you had never heard of. And you'd wish you could find more, but you could only get one or two tapes. And sometimes you'd rent them multiple times, And
I remember actually having this happen to me when Video Plus was still in operation. I'd gone down there and I happened to find they had one cassette each of Tranzor Z and Voltron. So, Of course, I'm renting this shit. I went home, put it on, and I'm watching, and I'm like, I used to watch this all the time. This isn't good.
Yes. Nostalgia is a heck of a drug. That is something that I would like to touch upon more when we get to the other series. What else did I want to say? But yes, that actually, I guess this is a good way to wrap up my thoughts. I'm very glad that we, for a while, we were kind of starting to lose that sort of like B-grade culture kind of stuff you'd get from certain decades, like especially the 80s. They were starting to fade out. Certain shows you might have seen either in reruns or aired live just seemed to kind of disappear. And it seems like within the last 10 years or so that started to change, because streaming services are kind of like where independent channels were, where they would license something on the cheap. Like Tubi immediately comes to mind. Like I was just browsing, Prime clued me in that they have pretty much everything G.I. Joe. Sadly, and almost everything Transformers. Sadly, not some stuff, but you'd have everything you could possibly want. And I was just casually browsing through, some of the episodes of G.I. Joe, and you wouldn't believe it, but they have Cops on there. The Hasbro toy line that had its own show. And I was like, Cops, really?
Oh yeah, I remember.
I was like so shocked by that, because I think I've seen a few episodes of that one, and it's like, wow, it's like. And then, obviously you'll find all those weird Z-grade movies and stuff. Like, it takes me back to that time. And I feel like that's something that really needs to be preserved. It's like, sometimes you want the best of the best. Everybody knows Transformers and G.I. Joe, but sometimes you want the offbeat stuff, like the 6 out of 10 stuff, because sometimes it's just a good indication of where the culture was, where it was going, what worked, what didn't. Sometimes it had ideas that aren't really explored much. I think Mike brought up, he was telling me about an episode of Jason the Wheeled Warriors he caught, and it sounded fascinating. Like you described it as like a pulp fantasy or sci-fi kind of show with vehicles, and that actually is such a unique idea.
I remember that quite well, although not well enough to recall any specific episodes.
That was a show
always goes.
That was a show I didn't get to see until later, because as we said before, you can only pull in so much, with all the different channels. There are channels we couldn't pull in. And I remember that was on it was on 23 Akron, and that was a channel I could just barely pull in depending on where I was living and what the weather was like. But I saw it later and I like, wow, this was a pretty good show.
Yeah, I remember watching that on one of the local stations when it was on. I didn't catch a lot of it, but what I did see was definitely memorable. And also, to address what Eugene just said, I remember those segments on Back to the Future cartoon very well. Because being a huge Back to the Future fan, when I heard there was going to be a cartoon, I watched that every Saturday.
Me too.
Same thing with Bill and Ted's Excellent Cartoon Adventures, or whatever they called it.
Yes, you're jogging some memories here. I think I saw little bits of those, like, because I can remember the intro to the Back to the Future cartoon really well, especially with the train.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I hadn't seen anything beyond, I think, the first Back to the Future at that point that I could recall. So it was interesting seeing more of that and being like, wow, there's, I didn't know they had a train at some point.
Yep. All right, Mike, as you put it, the babby of the group.
Unfortunately, like Snarb, I don't think independent stations were really much of a thing by the time, I viewed the television that I did, and also we started out not having regularized cable until like around closer to the end of the 90s, maybe even the start of the 2000s, so we didn't have too many channels at first. The one that I mostly had on was Nickelodeon. We did at least get that, and that informed a lot of my taste, because not only did I grow up on the original Nicktoons, Rugrats, Doug, and Ren and Stimpy, and of course Rocko's Modern Life, but around that time, Nick did have the rights to air Looney Tunes at the time, which really kind of kick-started pretty much just cemented my adoration for Western animation. Like, it would take ages for me to actually come around to really liking anime a lot as well, but yeah, even back then, though, like, TV wasn't as central to my nerd collective as video games were, and the way our setup was, I had to pick between either TV or video games, and I guess I'd usually save TV more for when I got home from school at first, but then the video games would like come more so around the night. I mean, as far as I remember, but I can only recall so much. But A, my memories suck. B, outside of Nickelodeon, I really couldn't tell you what I viewed when my age was still in the single digits. And C, as I said, independent networks weren't really much of a thing back then. Now, we did eventually get cable, and while around that time Nickelodeon was starting to drift away a little bit from what I grew up and liked it as. Thankfully, since we did get cable eventually, I did turn to having on Cartoon Network a lot, and this is where its original programming was really skyrocketing, like Johnny Bravo and Courage the Cowardly Dog, and thus I grew up on shows like that as well.
Dexter's Lab.
Yes, Dexter, definitely, yes. Absolutely. I am long a fan of Gendy Tartakovsky, and always will be. And I keep saying, in a perfect world, he would have been the one who did a Castlevania animated series, but that's neither here nor there.
That would have been beautiful, though.
That would.
I would have loved it. Like I could totally imagine it, just like his version. Like, fuck, I'd even take, like, a 10-minute animatic or whatever of him just, like, recreating the first Castlevania, just, like, almost no dialogue, just Simon obliterating everything on his way up to Dracula's Keep. That would be much more entertaining than like goat fucking or whatever was mentioned in the 2017 series or whatever. I don't know.
Less said about that, the better. I mean, it had good moments, but at the same time, it was like,
I agree.
Season 3.
Yeah, I think Adi Shankar's credibility took a fair hit because the Devil May Cry adaptation that he did recently was very mixed. But again, that's neither here nor there. But now I'm just trying to recall what animated television that I grew up on for the most part, and in the 90s it was almost always Nickelodeon, and in the 2000s it was almost always Cartoon Network, and then the 2010s onward, I think it was still Cartoon Network, but also I was also viewing more stuff online as well, and then it just kind of panned out forward from there. But I had just really absorbed a lot of Western, a lot of Looney Tunes, and at the time contemporary Western animation. But sadly, being born on the very edge of the 80s as I was, I unfortunately didn't grow up viewing any of the shows that we talked about tonight and will talk about tomorrow. I had to actively seek that stuff out at some point, even just for now, and I am glad that I got to go on my research bender that I did, and Snarb has also helped me track down and view all these shows to prep for, and I actually almost considered sitting this one out because I feel like my knowledge of these 80s shows was very inadequate compared to everyone else. But y'all like me too much and y'all want me to be on here, so I appreciate that, and I am thankful I got the education that I did, and I definitely want to seek out more to the extent that it's worth viewing. I mean, I know not every show is created equal, but so that's that, I guess. That kind of rambled from the original question. That's all I can think of to talk about. I am getting tired, though.
You did actually give me a good segue into something I wanted to give a brief shout out to.
Yeah, sure.
Since we won't be discussing them. Would be all of the early 80s cartoons based on video games.
Uh-oh. I did see an episode of Captain N.
Note that I said early 80s.
Okay.
That's actually much later, actually. I actually remember seeing that roughly, in syndication or at some point in the late 80s.
Yeah, I think it started in 89.
Yeah, I believe so, because you know how I am about 1989 and all that.
Oh, yeah. But no, I'm talking about stuff like Saturday Supercade, Pac-Man, Pole Position, Dragon's Lair, Space Ace.
Right.
Those
crazy though.
And Saturday Supercade was kind of unique because it was basically 4 short segments in every episode, each based on a different video game. Like originally started with Donkey Kong, Q*bert, Frogger, and Pitfall. And that eventually they removed Pitfall and put in Donkey Kong Jr. at one point.
Dang.
So I got to interview David Crane about that Pitfall cartoon as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
And he had a few things to say about it. And you can read all about those in...
Yeah, I bet.
You can read all about that in the Digital Archaeology book. Which is, by the way, still for sale.
Buy my book.
If you don't think I'm not going to take the opportunity to plug my books every chance I get on a stream, I will.
Yeah, of course. No, hey, I encourage it.
Yeah.
Because like I said in the Discord, and I want to say this to Mike, just the context of where and when you saw these things all of that is valuable, even if you didn't see them in their original runs, because this is the kind of information it's good to have it out there, because
yes,
there people kind of wonder how this stuff gets around, especially the stuff that wasn't, the stuff that wasn't first run. People, we talked about rental stores even and all that stuff. So hearing how you got to see these things, that's important to hear just as much as any of us who saw these things when they first hit.
Thank you. Yeah, that is a fair point.
I remember, Prime, a comment you made about one of the stories in Memoirs about how the first time I played Super Mario Brothers, how I brought up what the NES controller was like. Because that blew my mind. It's like there's 4 buttons on this thing, and what's this weird little cross thing? Where's the joystick?
It was so weird at first because
Yeah.
we were used to we were used to mostly the Atari joystick, one button, and now we've got 4 buttons going on. And it is not a joystick anymore. It's not like it's not like a cross pad disc or whatever that was on ColecoVision.
No.
It was this pad, and that happened because we were there as that was going on. That was weird to us. That's weird to nobody else.
Nope. Just the ones who were there originally. So, but yeah, so it's definitely important to have the context to all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I know that some people would potentially deride many of these 80s shows as being formulaic and or poorly disguised TV commercials, but looking at them now with 40 years of hindsight in the distance, I actually miss how refreshingly simple programming like this used to be. It just wears its fun on its sleeve, and really, if it's just dumb entertainment, that's all I want it to be. I don't have to worry about complex and layered plot lines and continuity and some bullshit lore that you can read on the fucking thing's Wikipedia page or whatever. It just is what it is, and it's been a joy just coming back to these shows that are just easy to follow and immediately jump into, and they make no bones about what they are, and they're the better for it, I think.
So make sure you tune in tomorrow when we talk about one of Mike's favorites that he's seen, Rubik the Amazing Cube.
Oh yeah.
We
Snarboo
saw
and
an
I
episode
did
of that.
view the
Yes.
first episode of that, and hey, guess what wins the award for the shittiest show we've seen out of all of these?
There's one scene that's
What?
actually worth seeing, though, and that's where he solves the Rubik's Cube backwards and blind. Like, he can't actually see it.
That's bullshit, because that must be the easiest Rubik's Cube ever. It's self-rigged or whatever. You actively have to be trying to lose in order to fuck it up. That's because I've never figured one out myself. Oh, what that?
Oh, they used to solve it backwards.
Back in the 80s, they would have, they just have shows with people doing weird stuff. And every once in a while you would see something like that where somebody would solve a Rubik's Cube with a blindfold or something like that. Because that was a giant craze for a while.
Oh yeah.
That's one of those things, if you weren't alive when it happened, you'd never know, because those things were everywhere.
That's why the context is important, and why it's also good for people who aren't familiar with it to see that, too.
Exactly. Although, if you get a chance, look up the Robot Chicken sketch about Rubik the Amazing Cube.
There's actually one of those, son of a bitch. All right,
And it is hilarious. So, yeah, you totally want to look that up.
Gotcha.
Because Robot Chicken being what it is, they were going to reference so much 80s stuff no matter what.
That's right.
I remember one of the earliest ones I ever saw was where wasn't I don't think I ever did Robotech. Voltron gets into the dance battle with the what they call them, robeasts.
I remember that.
Oh, that was good.
Oh,
And of course, stuff like Optimus Prime gets a prostate exam. So many good G.I. Joe ones. Jem showed up. Yeah, funny stuff. So anyway, yes, we will be back tomorrow night for an unprecedented part 2 of this stream. And then we'll resume our usual every 2-week schedule.
Yep.
So
This has been very fun, and I'm glad we're doing more, because this has definitely been, I think, our biggest field of content to cover in a while. So, yeah, I'm up for more tomorrow.
yeah, this is true. So, and we may even do a part 3 at some point in the future.
there's so many other 80s shows for sure.
Yeah. Then Mike can talk about Rubik the Amazing Cube to his heart's content.
I'm not going to. I'm really not going to, sir. This
We could always bring up the forgotten cartoons of the 80s, like Galaxy High.
the hell is
So that's
that?
one for that's one for the fiends. That's one of the good ones.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
On the other hand,
There's
we
also the mighty Orbots.
Challenge of the
ones
GoBots.
with the really good. It's like the first two were the ones with the really good animation, and then you had to go bring up GoBots.
Or
I
we-
like the
my
show,
God.
well, we
that's
GoBots.
I like the show, but it's about it's on the other side of that Tokyo movie Sensha studio kind of stuff.
well, we could always talk about stuff like Beverly Hills Teens and Denver the Last Dinosaur.
But what about
I
Turbo
actually like
Teen
Denver. So.
Turbo Teen, yeah. We'll talk about
with the
that.
most horrifying transformation?
Oh, Jesus, right. I see gifs of that all the time. It's
Turbo Teen.
yikes.
In
What
fact, I'm going to drop one in here just before we leave, so you have that picture
Some
before
sort of-
we leave for the night.
Oh no!
like
Did
some
you
fucking
spend-
like Cronenberg ass body horror here.
I mean, the grill of the
Oh
car.
my
I've
God.
been I hadn't seen it for years, but the grill, his teeth turned into the grill of the car, was stuck in my head since I saw it as a kid. And I was like, oh, that's not right.
What's the opposite of something living in your head rent free? Because that's what this is.
This just proves that
Memory hole.
Yeah.
This show
Memory
completely
hole, yes.
squats. Yeah, this show completely squats. It pays no rent. It pays no dues. It's there.
This show just proves that
Water.
human beings should not be Transformers.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm glad they never went to that extent. Did they? Transformers ever do that?
Kind of. The Pretenders, sort of. Not exactly.
What?
That doesn't really
What
count
does
on
Chrissy
anything.
Hind have to do
Yeah.
with this? I'm just kidding.
I don't think the Pretenders
Wrong
counted.
Pretenders.
Yep.
I know they had those exosuits that could transform.
Huh.
Yep.
And they would just be inside them.
Kind of like Daniel.
Yes. Although, here's a bonus point reference. If anyone remembers Clerks, the animated series.
I do.
Oh, yep.
So, who remembers the bit at the end of the courtroom episode where it just turns completely insane?
Yep.
And there's this transformer, and people get into it, and then when it transforms back into a robot, it yells blood come out.
That's still one of my favorite bits from that episode.
Not Pikachu,
Nice.
please don't sue. And of course,
That is wild.
the infamous, who is driving? Bear is driving. How could this be? Car full of midgets. I actually riffed on that once. I took a screenshot from the Muppet movie and basically put the caption over it. Who is driving? Bear is driving. How could that be? Car full of Muppets. Oh, that was a great show. Which reminds me, we'll be doing a View Askew stream at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, we still haven't done that. That would be great.
Yes, we've got to talk about that because there's just so many good movies and whatnot. All right. So I think we're going to sign off for tonight, but we shall catch you again at 9 tomorrow night. May end up being 9:30, just depending on what's going on, but I'll make sure that everyone knows what's going on first.
Alrighty.
So,
Yeah, sounds good.
yep. All right, everybody. We'll catch you then. And until then, everybody have a fun.
Enjoy.
Cheers.